Good afternoon, everybody. It's 7 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, and I am your friend and radio buddy. And we are here to bring you news and information. After a remarkable day yesterday, oh my goodness, I couldn't be more proud of the station, and I couldn't be more proud of you because if together we work to collect, and this is the updated final total. We had to add in some of the donations that were made online, etc. It's $243,134 and for some reason 60 cents, and that's enough to provide nearly 90,000 meals, and that shatters our all-time record. And I just want to say thanks. We'll talk more about this a little bit later, but what a great day it was. But now we have to catch up. We got things to talk about. And, this is really, it used to be that like Wednesday was getaway day and everybody traveled on Wednesday. But now I'm told that the peak travel day is actually Tuesday. A lot of people take off on Tuesday. And I want to warn you, if you're planning to fly, you may not be as safe as you think you are getting on that plane. And the reason has to do with the decision that was made by the Biden administration. We all know, because I talk about it endlessly, that our borders are open and that about 1.8 million gotaways have come through that we don't know anything about. We know that a great number of people who are on the terrorist watch list have been caught by the Border Patrol, but we don't know how many might be in that group of 1.8 million coming to this country, intent perhaps on doing harm to the homeland. And we worry about this endlessly. And, the last time we had something, it started with airplanes. 9/11, 12 guys with box cutters, and you know the rest. I don't have to go into it, how tragic that day was. And so after that, we put in these air marshals that are supposed to fly. They're unidentified. They get on the plane. They pose as passengers, but they're packing heat. And they're there to protect you should something go wrong. But the sad news is that this coming Thanksgiving and through the holidays, unless something is changed, and it doesn't look like it's going to change in time for Thanksgiving, the air marshals are really not going to be there. Air marshals have been diverted. They were diverted to go down to the border because the Biden administration wanted to send everybody they could down there, but the air marshals who are responsible for making sure your flights are safe are actually down on the border. And according to what I'm reading here, they're not doing law enforcement. They're handing out water and doing menial tasks, and they're not happy about it. This story from FoxNews.com caught my attention today, and I just think if you're getting ready to be on a plane, you should know this stuff. Record-setting 30 million Americans are expected to head to the airport this Thanksgiving holiday. And one industry expert is warning the deployment of air marshals to the southern border could mean that Turkey Day troubles might not be isolated to just, bad weather or problems, with the volume. We have received an email last week that resources are depleted as far as our flying air marshals are concerned, said Sonia Labasco, director of the Air Marshal National Council. We are ushering in illegal immigrants on the border and leaving the travel public unsafe, telling viewers that air marshals are being deployed at the southern border instead of the transportation sector where they were supposed to be. She said leaders of key federal agencies, namely the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas again, and its subsidiary, the Transportation Security Administration, are to blame. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz previously questioned the TSA on the ongoing air marshal deployments to the southern border, writing in a letter to TSA Administrator David Pekoske, it is concerning that the administration has prioritized ushering illegal immigrants into the country over protecting the lives and safety of the traveling public. Touching on Cruz's letter, Labasco said the air marshals deployed in the region are not doing law enforcement duties. They are passing out water. The letter penned by Pekoske echoed the same, as Cruz argued taking penned to Pekoske echoed the same, as Cruz argued taking air marshals off flights for the deployments could be putting travelers at risk. I mean, come on. It'd be one thing if they went down there to actually try to secure the border, but they're not doing it. They're just facilitating the movement of immigrants, and they're doing menial tasks like passing out water. They don't have a law enforcement role down there. They're just there to support, the Border Patrol. Secretary Mayorkas has said the border is secure. He's not concerned with that. Well, we all know that the border is not secure, right? I mean, we know that. Anybody who tells you the border's secure is lying to you. They are just out and out lying to you, which is why I think Secretary Mayorkas should be impeached. He should be kicked out of office, and I think that may be in the planning over at the House, thanks to the work of Congressman Green from Tennessee. Labasco went on to say, clearly, we're not flying right now. The only missions we're doing are quiet skies missions, and those missions that are those that are following the January 2021 people, meaning a group of the industry dedicated to following those who flew to the U.S. Capitol region around the time of the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot, regardless of whether they were present at the Capitol. They've got them doing that work. We're either on the border or we're following folks from January 6th. We're not doing our regular missions where we're looking out there and looking for the bad guys on your flights. So now on most flights, you're not going to have air marshals. Later, she warned that the travelers should be very concerned while boarding planes. Listen to this. This is her advice. It's insane. I can't believe that they're even offering this as advice. You ready? You need to look around to see who might be able to ask to help like a good Samaritan, because you're kind of on your own. If anything happens, please don't wait. There's going to be no law enforcement that's going to be there to help you. So you need to have a plan. Look where the exit doors are. Look where your flight attendants are standing around you. I would be looking around, I can't believe this, for a big football player, a pretty big guy, or a couple of big guys in case you need to take action. It's on us, because the people who are on the plane packing heat will not be there. This is very troubling. I mean, they're not probably going to be able to get into the cockpit because the cockpit doors are secure. Perhaps the most important thing had been done, but you, the flying public, could well be at risk, according to this article. Now, air marshals are not on every flight, but they are, when they're doing their job, they're on flights of which they feel like there may be some concern, somebody to watch, something going on, a route into the nation's capital, perhaps. One way or the other, they're not going to be there. Have a great flight. You're on your own. You can't do anything. You can't take anything on the plane to defend yourself. So they're saying, just look around for some big guys and make friends with them. I'm a big guy, but I won't be flying anytime soon because of that. And since just as a public service announcement, I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. But here's a little bit about what happens if you're going to BNA. Many people are out there right now making their way to BNA to get on their flights, which there will be no air marshals. And they're expecting some 35,000 passengers to depart on the big days. Tomorrow, they say 35,000. They say Sunday, when a lot of people come back, another 35,000 coming in. But whether you're flying into or out of BNA, there's some things you need to know about. Structural changes to the airport. They opened up, if you haven't been there, a 200,000 square foot lobby that includes 24 TSA security lanes. That's an upgrade, so there are more security lanes. There is a new concourse for Allegiant and Spirit passengers. The satellite concourse encompasses gates C4 through C11 and is designed to accommodate the operations of Allegiant and Spirit. Passengers access the satellite concourse at a shuttle station from the main terminal. From there, a fleet of electric shuttles run every 3 minutes. I didn't know about this, fitting up to 69 passengers per shuttle. The facility also has new retail and concession options. You'll have food and drink over there while you're waiting. And then very quickly about the parking at the airport. We told you the other day, I misunderstood something that I read, and I told you something wrong, and I apologize for that. The new cell phone lot is still way up on Murfreesboro Pike. When they say the new cell phone lot, I thought they were talking about, well, they got the new cell phone lot at the airport. No, it's still at 1415 Murfreesboro Pike, 3 miles from the airport. While a farther distance before the lot is 2.5 times bigger than the other lots with 240 spaces. The lot, which is first come, first served, features real-time flight information monitors for drivers who need to check the status of incoming flights. According to B&A, the drive time from the new cell lot to the terminal is 5 to 7 minutes, approximately a distance of 3 miles. And so if you are watching, you should allow 20 to 30 minutes from landing time for them to reach the curb. Officials also advise allotting extra time for parking next week. As you might imagine, it's going to be very, very heavy down there, but they've got a lot of parking. You just got to find it. TDOT is to halt all lane closure activity. They're going to take down all the cones and all their construction sites for the holiday, as they are expecting a great number of people on the highways and the byways. I read something AAA said the other day that they're expecting it to be one of the biggest travel days, perhaps in the history of the state of Tennessee. A lot of people are really going to be traveling, and I'm telling you, if I knew about the air marshal situation, I'd be traveling. I'd be getting in my car, and to that point, while we love our police here in the state of Tennessee. And we are very pro-police, I think, here on this station, and I certainly am. I do everything I can to support the thin blue line. But, that said, I don't think I'm telling you any secrets, because they've advertised it. There are going to be a lot of state troopers on the highways. And, I don't think, if you think you're going to get on a highway and drive 80 miles an hour, you might be disabused of that notion. Because I think there's going to be a lot of John Law out there, a lot of popo on the highway, and doing their job. And I'm glad they're there because they have a thankless job. They have to be out there working at a time when a lot of people would like to be home with their families, preparing Thanksgiving, frying the turkey, whatever they do. But they're going to be out there, patrolling the highways. And quite frankly, you just need to be prepared that you're not going to make as good a time as you think you're going to make, because there's going to be a lot of volume, and the State Patrol is going to be strictly enforcing speed limits, so we are told. Happy Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
The latest in the Israel-Hamas war as the United States gets involved as it's related to the release of hostages and an explosion right here in Middle Tennessee. That and more, 3:30, Super Talk, 99.7 WTN.
Hey, Mac Morey, good to see you there in the newsroom. And there's Chris Weber in the control room. Guys, I got to tell you, it's been an eventful couple of days. Of course, we had the radiothon yesterday, but even before then, we had our hands full here at Stately Wilson Manor in bucolic Watertown. Over the weekend, even though I know I'm pushing the season, there are good reasons for it. We are putting up all of our Christmas decorations. In fact, you may notice in the background the first seasonal appearance of Buddy the Elf.
Got a stalker back there.
Oh, yeah. He's lurking in the background.
He's too excited for me.
I know. He's so excited. Anyway, Buddy the Elf. But we're decorating because, well, we're going to have puppies next week. And I'm told that the puppies require feedings, and you just need to help the mama a little bit, but you got to get up and make sure the puppies are getting fed and that they're, that they may need a little help finding mama, as it was in the middle. So I'm going to be on 2-hour feeding schedule.
Wow.
And then, that
sounds like fun.
And we don't really know how many puppies are coming, but Grogu's as big as, I call her the waddle pig, because she just waddles around. She's so big and fat right now, and she's just adorable, and she's so sweet right now. Just before they deliver, they become very clingy and very sweet and very maternal. She's been looking for a place to have puppies. For some reason, she keeps going to my closet, which is not going to happen. She's not going to be in there. But we're setting up a place for her to do that, and the puppies will be coming next week. We thought they might be coming today.
Really?
And, yeah, we thought. And so I got up this morning. The dog's going.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, that's a sign, because we looked it up on the internet. The internet's never wrong. It's a sign that maybe the puppies are coming early. So we rushed her over to the vet, and they ran some tests, and we were told, nope. She's just big and fat and uncomfortable. And so we're still it looks like on track to do everything next Monday. And it's going to, how do I put it? The Frenchies need a little help with delivery. So
need a little help getting it started and getting it finished, apparently.
That's right. And so, that's right. And so we're going to be over there for a time-certain C-section. So Grogu will have puppies, if everything goes well, on Monday. So and that would be exciting. That'd be exactly the entire, I think, 60 days that they're supposed to.
It's just amazing that happens that fast.
Incredible.
It does. It really is, and it's truly exciting. And then before I went to the radiothon yesterday, ring at the doorbell. And I look out, and there's 5 little kids on my porch, and they're the neighborhood kids. They're just the sweetest kids. They really are adorable. Mister, I don't know if you know it, but your Christmas tree, it fell over. The 27-foot Christmas tree, inflatable Christmas tree, which went up this weekend, was on its side. I had not been paying attention. You're not supposed to have it inflated during breezy days. And
yesterday was breezy.
Yeah, it was launched. It was trying to get loose and fly across the yard, and I had to go down there and do an emergency deflation. And people are very disappointed because they've come by to see the tree, and it's a mess. It's just flat on the ground. No air in it whatsoever. So I apologize for that if you've made the trip out to see the tree, but we'll get her back up and running as soon as the rain lets up and we get back into some fairer weather. But then one other thing, I went last night after the radiothon, which was just a huge success, and I went to 3rd and Lindsley to see the Time Jumpers, which I have not seen in a while. My friend Jeff Taylor is the keyboard player there, plays keys and accordion. He's just phenomenal. He's just so good. And in fact, everybody in that group is just like, they're A-list session people. And they had added Wendy Moten, who is, if you see a Vince Gill show, Wendy's often there. She was on The Voice, came in number 2 on The Voice that year, and she's really remarkable, and just brought the house down last night. What a great show it was. Yeah, to me, I tell people when they come, I said, if you're going to be here, try to be here on a Monday night so you can catch the Time Jumpers.
Yeah.
Because, it is always a good show, and those guys are just So good. I mean, each and every one of those players, from the steel player to the guitar and the player, guy by the name of Andre, they are just across the board. And then, of course, as an added bonus, there's Ranger Doug is there. So, I mean, it's always a good show. And I want to say thanks to Jeff for having us down to see the Time Jumpers at 3rd and Lindsley. Tell your friends, though, if they want to know, see the real cats who make so much of the music over the history of this town, country music. A lot of them are sitting on that stage and playing with the Time Jumpers, and they are just remarkably good. It is now 3:30, time for the news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 54 degrees on Music Row, and got a chance of showers the rest of today, but tomorrow should be clear, and by Thanksgiving, it'll be mostly sunny with a high of 57. Traffic and a complete weather forecast coming up in 5 minutes. The United States says it would be in the interest of Hamas to release hostages and could benefit the Gaza civilians that Hamas says it is there to govern. Andy Field has the latest.
For nearly 2 months, the U.S. State Department has said virtually the same thing about the Hamas hostages.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet.
State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller saying they are seeing how many Palestinian prisoners Israel will trade for Hamas hostages and just how long a truce to make sure they're safely returned.
And the proposed hostage deal would mean a pause in fighting, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not pledged an end of the war. Right now in Tennessee, 2 people are in critical condition after a home exploded in Murray County this morning. It happened on Dry Creek Road in Mount Pleasant around 8 a.m. The fire department believes this explosion could be caused by a propane leak, but there's been no confirmation on that. This is the second explosion in Murray County just this week. And worrying about COVID seems like last year's problem, but doctors say more of us will be getting sick after gatherings, not just COVID, but all kinds of illnesses, and that it might be time to take some precautions to avoid getting even a cold. Alex Stone.
When humans are together, we spread gunk, not just COVID, but everything else, colds, the flu, RSV. Dr. Peter Chin Hong says because of that, rates of all of those will go up after we've been together for the holidays.
So we unfortunately will expect a bump after Thanksgiving and another bump that continues after the December holidays, and then another one after New Year's.
He and his colleagues say they do suggest wearing a mask again right now in airports and on planes to avoid getting what the people have around you who are coughing.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
I want to tell you about the folks over at Stoltzco.com. I actually had the opportunity to meet Will Stoltz yesterday at the radiothon. What a nice guy. In fact, I'm wearing his snazzy hat right now. He gave me one of the Stoltzco hats, and they are handsome. But if you're in the market for a pole barn, the two brothers that run Stoltz Co. are the two guys you need to talk to. Exceptional quality, craftsmanship, and fair prices. They can build your new pole barn to your specifications with your needs in mind. That is the Stoltz Co. difference. You can use pole barns for all kinds of things. It can function as a classic tool and work barn, a garage, or even a place to live. Flexibility is the key. And what they do is they combine the classic post-frame barn look with the reliability of modern materials and techniques to give you a finished barn that will stand the test of time. They don't scrimp on quality. They don't cut corners. They believe their customers deserve only the best. Do me a favor. If you're in the market for this, go over to stoltzco.com. That's STOLTZCO.com. Take a look at some of the examples they posted of things they've done for other people. Handsome buildings. This is not your grandpappy's pole barn. 615-622-5992. And again, learn more at stoltzco.com. That's stoltzco.com. Thirty-eight minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, back in the chair from Bucolic, Watertown after a great radiothon yesterday. Thank you again so much. We greatly appreciate it. Got a lot of stuff to cover here. Why don't we do this 2024 update, because we got some numbers. The numbers continue to look very bad for Joe Biden. You know, it was pointed out to me, some of these numbers where you see like Trump leading by 2, that is within the margin of error. But I just want to sort of also make this point. With polls, it's not so much the number, it's the trend. The numbers are a snapshot in time. But what you're looking for is a trend, and there's a definite trend out there. And the trend is people are, if it comes down to a choice between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they are now increasingly leaning toward Trump. In some cases, significantly so, outside the margin of error. So I can't find any poll out there that's been done recently that shows Biden leading Trump. It's the other way around in almost every poll. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the likely Republican nominee. In the general election, if in a matchup between Trump v. Biden, it is NBC News says that he would win by 2. Trump would win by 2 points. Morning Consult, very similar. Trump would win by 3. But the Harris poll says that if the election were held today, Biden versus Trump, that Trump would win by 6. 6 points. Now, there are some polls out there that have Biden winning by, 5, 6, 7 points, and there's more than a few of them. If you add in the Harris poll, they added up a 4-way matchup, and it didn't seem to affect Trump. It affected Biden, and that's also another trend when you throw extra names in there about people who might do it, like West or maybe Joe Manchin or Kennedy for sure is in most of these 3-way and 4-way matchups. It seems to take away from Biden and not so much from Trump. So that's very, very interesting news. Again, I can't find any poll that's been done recently that shows Biden as the victor in a general election matchup. And if you look at some of the battleground polls, they're very encouraging for Republicans right now. Again, snapshot in time, but it's also an indication that something's going on out there where people have decided, I just can't vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden's got a lot of problems right now when you look at the polls and what's going on in the world around us. I mean, the economy is bleak. Maybe there's going to be a soft landing, but it takes a while for that to actually show up in people's lives. I mean, interest rates are not coming down anytime soon. They might not go up any higher, but they're already high enough, aren't they? And the inflation has slowed, but I mean, for some time now, inflation has outstripped the pay raises that people get and people's earning power. So every day you go to the grocery store, every day you go out and do any kind of shopping or you purchase something, you're paying for things that are more expensive. And that's not good for Joe Biden. I want to play a soundbite, though, at the White House. This is my friend James Rosen. Next to Peter Doocy, James Rosen is about the only guy in there who asks decent questions. And he asked them, about the polls where, when you ask them about the polls at the White House, they say things like, well, we don't look at the polls. We don't care about the polls. All we're focused on is trying to do something for the American people, which is a BS answer. I mean, that is total, absolutely unadulterated. Yeah. That was a double one and a double drop. And, it is BS because they look at the polls. And it's also true that, they talk about things that when polls are positive, they're very quick to point them out. This was the question asked by my friend James Rosen.
Whenever you're asked about the president's dismal job approval ratings, you say we're not going to look at polls. We look at his accomplishments. And yet, when you are asked about various domestic policy initiatives, you will say these poll very well. People support what the president wants to do. If you look at the individual subjects on the polling, they support what the president's agenda is. So, once and for all, are only certain polls valid in your eyes, the ones that support your agenda? Or is the polling data that shows that President Biden has been stuck for 2 years at the low 40s in his approval ratings, are those valid?
So here's the thing. I think it's important to share that American people do approve of some of the president's initiative. I think it is important.
Well, okay. James didn't let it go there. He asked more about, what do you think about these polls then?
The polls that show that the electorate at large and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party believe that the president is too old. The polls that show the American people and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party don't want him to run again. And the polls that show his handling of the economy, foreign policy, all of these dismal polls, his job approval ratings, does the White House have any basis to challenge the accuracy of that polling?
I'm not challenging the accuracy here. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying to you is that we're not going to change the minds of Americans.
Wow.
I get that. Americans are going to feel how they feel, and we're going to respect that. And I've said that many times from here. Many times. I said that moments ago. What I can tell you is what our perspective is. What I can tell you is how we see things.
Well, and I mean, if she says that we don't expect to change minds, people are going to feel like what they said. Basically, she's just saying, we're going to keep on doing what we're doing, even though it's not working. Okay, great. I mean, I'm happy for that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just astonished at that answer from the podium at the White House. Yeah, we're not going to change anybody's mind, but, we're just going to keep talking, doing what we're doing. Again, I think Democrats are going apoplectic when they hear things like that from the White House. Of course, this came on the day, yesterday. We were busy with other stuff, but it was the president's 81st birthday, and a lot of questions about his age.
I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone on any day of the week.
David Axelrod told the New York Times, quote, Biden thinks he can cheat nature here and it's really risky. A, what's the president's response to David Axelrod? Does he respect his opinion? Does he think he's right? But also, I mean, is there a real alarm happening behind the scenes that the president is simply too old to stake around for another 4 years?
No, there's no alarm happening behind the scenes.
No, everything's fine. No.
I can only speak behind the scenes here. There's no alarm happening behind the scenes, and I'm certainly not going to.
Well, there's a lot of hemming and
comment
hawing going on here.
Everybody who has something to say.
I mean, David Axelrod
I didn't say that. I nowhere in my response to you that I said that. I said I'm just not going to comment on everyone that has a comment to say. They're going to speak for themselves.
Right.
I'm going to speak for the president, and here what I'll say is, look. And also, it's just not my job. It's not my job to think through or to tell people what to think, right? Whether it's the American people out there or a political analyst or as your question is about David Axelrod. It's just not my place to speak to that. Our perspective is that it's not about age. It's about the president's experience. That's what we believe. And it's, as they say, the proof is in the pudding, right? The president has used his experience to pass more bipartisan legislation in recent time than any other president. That's just a fact. That is something that we have seen this president do, and that's because of his experience. He's been able to manage multiple foreign policy challenges.
Really?
He's been able to do that. That's because of his experience. He's been able to create jobs, raise wages, and lower inflation.
No, I didn't.
Right, and that is the proof is in the pudding, right? We see that in the data.
Again.
We see that where we are today than where we were when the president walked into the administration. So what we say is we have to judge him by what he's done, not by his numbers.
Well, that's the problem, is that people are judging him by what he has done or not done, and it is being reflected in the numbers. I mean, this was a little soft shoe, a little tap dance. She was just trying to get out of that one alive, and she didn't have a good answer. So, you should take from this that Karine Jean-Pierre, who speaks on behalf of the White House, they think that there's nothing they can do to change the minds of the American people, and they're just going to keep doing what they're doing. Okay, that's good for me. You be you. Just rock right along there. That'll be great. But these things that I'm about to share with you don't happen in a vacuum. When you see stories like this, you can tell that there's a movement behind the scenes to ramp up the pressure. Democrats ramping up the pressure on the sitting president to, pull out of the race for re-election. And they're looking at the polls. Some Democrats are worried that the president will not be able to turn around enough support before the general election next November. Others are brushing off the concerns about polling as too early to make a difference. I think it's a really good sign that things are problematic for this president and his efforts to get reelected. Biden also received a new low approval rating of 39% in the Messenger poll. That's only 39% of Americans approve of the president's performance 2 days after hitting a record low on the NBC poll of 40%, and only 29% of independents. This is really important. 29% of independents approve of Biden's work as president. Another indication that Biden's chances of appealing to centrist voters may be sliding away further and further and further away. Listen to this. New York Times chief White House correspondent Peter Baker reported on comments from current and former administration officials on the strategy to handle concerns over Biden's age ahead of his 81st birthday. Spoke to a ton of people on the Democrat, people who are influential, power brokers within the Democrat Party. Some told Baker that Biden needs to start getting out on the campaign trail and show more his vigor, deploy more humor. Oh, that'll work. To diffuse the matter, even boast about his age rather than ignore it. Others, however, says he needs to be protected even more, allowed time to rest, and not sent on many draining international trips. What some cheekily call the bubble wrap strategy, as if they were encasing him in bubble wrap for the next 12 months to make sure he does not trip and fall. The NBC poll, again, is cited in this story. Registered voters have major concerns about Biden's 59%, about Biden's physical and mental health as he eyes the second turn, with an additional 27% having neither moderate or minor concerns. That means that, 3/4 of Americans, according to this poll, have concerns of some level. However, Biden officials insist the issue is only an obsession of the mainstream media. No, the polls are a reflection of what the people are saying. Nothing irritates the White House more than a discussion of Mr. Biden's age, which they view as an obsession of the news media that does not correspond with his energetic and mentally sharp president they describe inside the Oval Office. Well, I don't see that. I don't see that ever. The Times article also featured on-the-record comments from political strategists. Here's one. I think a lot of voters and young people in particular who are not at all put off by his political positions or accomplishment are put off by his utter failure as a regal persona, said longtime analyst John B. Judas. And I don't know how that can be fixed. Not by bicycling. Biden's best hope is, in that regard, is the voters' perception of Trump as bad or evil. See, they're going to they say, oh, well, yeah, he may be sort of a bumbling old guy, but he's not Trump. I don't know. I think that's a bad strategy from their standpoint because, what do people know? They have, and in this election, a rare opportunity to compare and contrast. And I think as they are, it is being reflected in the ratings and the polls. It is now 52 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? The experts at Beacon Capital Management say, well, it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great? It really would be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path as you head in the direction of retirement. Beacon can provide you that reassurance. It starts with a simple phone call to this number, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will take it from there. You have nothing to lose in this process except for the worry that you may have. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you are on the right path. 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away. Learn more at askbeaconnow.com.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
401, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Currently 53 degrees, a cloudy, wet day in Nashville, expecting to clear up by holiday time. Traffic, a weather forecast coming up 5 minutes away. President Biden held a meeting today with senior members of his administration to follow up on gains he says his administration has made on combating the illegal import and distribution of fentanyl. The president struck a deal last week with the presidents of China and Mexico to crack down on the illegal trade of fentanyl precursor chemicals, which are used to make the potentially deadly drug. Karen Travers has more on what he had to say about the personal impact of the drug on so many American families.
President Biden meeting with senior administration officials to talk about ways to combat the illicit fentanyl trade and acknowledging the holidays can be tough for families who've lost loved ones to the opioid epidemic. He called it a, quote, American tragedy.
Too many are going to face looking at an empty chair for the first time at Thanksgiving. So many people have died. That's heartbreaking.
After the president's meeting with China's President Xi, the White House announced the U.S. and China will work together on a new effort to target Chinese companies that are making the chemicals for fentanyl.
And President Biden also said that they need to verify that China's shutting down those companies that deal the drug and not just trust their word. Holiday travel here in the volunteer state. Tennessee Highway Patrol plans to be more active on the streets, planning to place troopers every 10 to 20 miles. THP also asking all law enforcement agencies to crack down on traffic violations. AAA estimates more than 55 million Americans will travel for the Thanksgiving holiday, with more than 49 million planning to drive to their destinations. At least one person dead after a large mudslide in Alaska. Alex Stone with some details.
The mudslide is in a remote area of Alaska and Wrangell, north of Ketchikan. Alaska's Department of Public Safety says 3 homes were in the path of the slide. An immediate search was started, and the body of one person was found, but they believe there are more who were in the slide area. Those people are now missing. Alaska State Troopers have taken command of the search and rescue effort. People living in the area are being told to evacuate. Water taxis are being used to help get some people out. The slide has been active. They worry more mud could give way. A geologist is responding to survey the area.
Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency reported a deer in Lewis County testing positive for chronic wasting disease. This means feeding changes and carcass transportation regulation changes in that area. There's now a set of restrictions in place in Lewis County. The agency will now increase testing surveillance efforts there, and they will try and monitor the disease. Last year, over 800 animals tested positive out of the over 20,000 samples here in Tennessee. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hour number 2 of The Drive already on this 21st day of November. A lot of you are out there, trying to get away for a big Thanksgiving dinner somewhere. Go meet with family somewhere.
Or trying to get away from a big family gathering.
Hard. And to that end, we're not going to be here. Chris and I are not going to be here, I guess, Thursday and Friday, because it's a holiday. And so we'll be doing the best of The Drive.
Or something in that neighborhood, yeah.
It'll be 2 minutes, and it'll be great. We'll just keep running the same 2 minutes over and over. That's right. No. We've got some great segments, and I actually really enjoy on those days when I'm off. I sometimes just tune in and listen, and I enjoy it. I mean, it's not because I enjoy the sound of my own voice. Sometimes we stumble into interesting stuff, and we talk about interesting things, and we have interesting people on the show from time to time. So
you go, oh, I forgot I even said that.
I forgot that I said that. I go, hey, did I say that really? Gosh, I don't know. But that'll be, and we appreciate, everybody's going to be out with their families, and we're going to do the same. You'll get a treat. I mean, listen to it, see what you think.
Gobble. Yeah,
that's right. And then have some cornbread dressing. Oh, by the way, the cornbread dressing recipe that I put on yourfarm.com, over 1,000 people have gone to that and have downloaded and looked at it and printed off the cornbread dressing recipe, which I did not steal from my sister's mother-in-law, no matter what she said. Yeah. I'm going to see Sis on Friday, and she's going to, of course, wear me out about that once again. But anyway, if you want to get it, you'd have to just scroll. That's like the third item. It's, because we put in our show prep every day at yourfarb.com, URFARB.com, and find the link to that at supertalk997WTN.com. All right, let's talk about some Nashville and Tennessee news. This is tragic. Last weekend marked a grim milestone, says WKRN Channel 2, as Nashville has a homicide rate of more than 100 homicides so far this year. There was one on Sunday, so that brings it to 101. The most recent case involved a 19-year-old who died after an unknown person reportedly fired several rounds into his bedroom from the breezeway of an apartment complex on Oakville Farms Lane in Hermitage. Officers with Metro Nashville Police Department said the teen was hit multiple times. Another person at the apartment complex, a 35-year-old woman, was also injured by the gunfire, but reportedly survived. Just one day earlier, a 38-year-old man was shot and killed in an apartment complex 19 miles away on Delway Villa Road. Another man surrendered last week after police said he shot and killed a 36-year-old inside a recording studio on Wednesday, November 15th. We don't really talk about these cases on a regular basis, but when you start to look at how much violence there is in Nashville and how many people are dying, it is very concerning. In total, preliminary data propelled by Metro Nashville Police Department Crime Analysis Section shows there have been 9 homicides reported in just the last 4 weeks. However, that data only extends to November 18th. Compared to this time last year, the homicide rate has neither increased nor decreased. Preliminary data show there were about 100 homicides reported in November of 18th of 2022, but this is very concerning, very concerning. The number of homicides is up this year 177% compared to a decade ago, and up 35% compared to 2018 when there were 74 homicides. So you go back 10 years, it was a much safer place, and every year it gets more and more violent. So we maybe have hit a little plateau, but, still, it's nothing to brag about that 100 people in Davidson County have been murdered in the last, 11 months, with another month to go. So this is very troubling. One of the largest increases has been in Midtown Hills precinct, where unofficial reports show there's been a 100% rise in homicides compared to this time last year. It's not just homicides. It's sort of rampant thuggish behavior that is being reported all across the Nashville area. This story, again from Channel 2, Metro Police say they've arrested a Murfreesboro man after a meetup he allegedly facilitated earlier this year resulted in thousands of dollars worth of property damage. These are the street racers. $100,000 in damages. Arrest this guy. His name is Austin Scott, 25 years old. Now faces a felony vandalism charge following the unsanctioned meetup where they were doing burning out and donuts and all kinds of stuff. This is where they go over there and they just take over a street and block it off, and they just take over and just do burnouts and tear things up. Scott was arrested by the Tennessee Highway Patrol in Rutherford County on an outstanding warrant after he was identified as the lead organizer for the Night Riders. He was booked into Metro Jail Thursday on a $35,000 bond and released on Saturday. Scott said $35,000 bond. I mean, after doing more than $100,000 in damage. You know, as I understand it, I've never actually had to throw a bail. I've never had to throw bail for anyone, and I've never been in jail. So, well, just once, but that only lasted a few minutes. Long story. $35,000 bond. As I understand it, you pay 10% down. So he had to come up with $3,500 to get out on jail. And then the bond company says he'll be there. Officials said Scott was previously arrested on October 15th on charges which included rioting, including inciting a riot and reckless driving. I don't know. We're not alone. You think we got it bad here? Think about Memphis. Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, this according to the Tennessee Star, announced on Monday that he ordered an increased Tennessee Highway Patrol presence on highways and interstates in Shelby County to help contend with the criminal element in Memphis. A surge of approximately 40 additional troopers will be there on November 27th, wrote Lee's office. An additional 15 to 20 troopers from other districts across the state will join the surge and remain in Shelby County for the foreseeable future. Wow. Noting rising crime in the United States, Tennessee is implementing proven crime prevention methods to keep our community safe. Maybe he could send some troopers into Davidson County. I don't know. Lee turned to local officials who seemed to accuse the Milan criminals to return to the street. At the same time, local officials must carry out their responsibility and uphold the law and hold criminals accountable. That's the problem. That's the problem in Shelby County. I think it's the problem here in Davidson County. The action follows a letter sent by State Senator Brent Taylor of Memphis, who urged Lee to take immediate action to curtail Memphis' growing crime rate. You know, a police presence does a lot to sort of tamp that stuff down. Just the fact that they're there. You know, you talk about a place that was lawless, and it's lawless again, but it was lawless a while back, and that was New York City. Say what you will about Rudy Giuliani, who is, I don't think, the guy that we once knew when he was mayor. But I'll say this about him. When he was mayor, they started enforcing things like, I don't know, parking laws and jaywalking, and I mean the little things. And it became, they just increased their presence, and they decided that, we're going to enforce the law, whatever the law is. If the law is on the books, we're going to enforce it. And you know what? By doing that and making their presence known and sort of renewing a desire to actually enforce the law. Forget this community policing crap. Just go out there and enforce the law. And you know what you find? You find that crime goes down dramatically. It's very well tested, and it really does work. Governor Lee is sending a police presence to Memphis, and they will be noticed, and they will be seen, and it will have, I feel, a positive impact on that community. If nothing else, people will feel a little safer that there's an increased police presence. In Davidson County, we're way low on officers, and we're stretched far too thin. And a recent study that I'll have to say was done by the Oversight Board, which I normally don't agree with, but I think they're right about this, showed that we're not putting enough police officers. We have too many tied up in administration and not enough people on the road. 60% of your police force should be out there on patrol. And we're somewhere like 30%. We need to fix that. The crime problem can be made better simply by putting police officers in police cars and putting them on the street where they are seen, and it will be observed in this community that something different has changed, and law enforcement's got to get serious about enforcing the law. I don't think they will enforce the law, and if they do enforce the law, I'm not sure they'd be prosecuted, but one way or the other, an increased police presence has a positive impact on crime rates and even murders, which they say it's a crime of passion, but it's been proven. Enforce the law on the small things, and communities become safer and less violent. This MTSU political professor supports lawmakers urging the Department of Children's Services to look into juvenile detention centers across the state after a recent case of alleged abuse and a neglect at the Richard L. Bean Center. We've done some stories on this about whistleblowers who've come forward and said, you know what, DCS is sending kids to homes that are not safe, that just don't check out. They're taking them out of abusive and dangerous situations, and sometimes it would seem putting them in something that's equally bad, or if not worse. And then, the reaction was when people started filing those reports, the people are supposed to be out there inspecting the places we send foster kids or kids that have been removed from dangerous situations. And they wrote up a report, and the answer from the higher-ups was, oh, don't write that up. That'll turn up in the news media. Well, it did, and you need to be serious about making these kids safer. By the way, I just want to make a mention here. We learned yesterday that our good friends at the Nashville Rescue Mission have a brand new facility for women and children that is separate from their other campus, that is ready and waiting on a permit from the city. You want to do something to make families safer, give them a place to go where they can be safe, and because clearly DCS is lacking in the ability to do that. Give people a chance to go to a brand new facility where they will be cared for and shown love and made safe. Why don't you just get the damn permit approved so they can get busy over there? Unbelievable that permit is not already approved. It ought to be at the top of the list. Well, there's a lot of people. I don't care. Nothing more important than making sure children are safe. Is, some high-rise building more important than making sure the children are safe? Get it done. Mayor Freddie O'Connell, get it done. I got more, but we got to go now. It's 4:20 on Super Talk 99.7.
Today's show happened because I saw a comment. He said, why don't you do something on doves and dove fields and how to find them and things like that. So
yeah, all right.
Good idea. It's past the opening day, but like you said, it can work.
Yeah.
Because the season is long. It runs for 90 days and there's 3 segments, so we're going to cover all that today. Let's rattle off the season. September 1 through September 28th is the first segment of Dove, and then October 14th through November 5th, and then December 8th through January 15th. 15 is your bag limit. So September 1 is opening day, and that's at noon in Tennessee.
September 1st has been one of those days. I mean, you'll see guys. I mean, they'll take off work. Have big cooking and getting together with friends, and it's kind of neat to see.
Yeah.
Historically, it's a huge social event. I'd say the majority of the hunters probably hunt opening day, opening weekend, and then won't pick up a shotgun until next year. So,
we have 2 other segments besides this one. Running in October, and then even all the way through January 15th. There's a lot of opportunity throughout the year.
On our website, tnwildlife.org, on our homepage, you can click the button there to dove hunting info and fields is what the button's titled. It's got all the information on dove hunting. You can find the fields there. So let's talk about how to find a field. You click on Region 2, it pulls up the options that are available, and get down to Bart Camp Barrens, and you see it's open statewide. So the hunting's not over there. There's still opportunity. Even though we had a big opening day, let it die down a little bit and get back in there. You're going to have some good hunting, I think, there, sounds like, anyway.
An explosion at a house in Murray County, leaving 2 in critical condition. Black Friday just days away, and the latest money news, those stories and more headed your way at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, I need to back off a little bit because I apparently did not get the memo that that Matt Murphy reported earlier in the show that he had checked and that the last permit had been signed off on at the new Women's and Children's Center for the Nashville Metro. But we brought it up yesterday.
Or at least it's been fast tracked.
Yeah,
not 100% certain that it's done with, but he did speak with someone from Codes today apparently and said that they, got everything in order now.
All right. So. Well, that's good to know because that was a silly thing for them to be dragging their feet on. Okay, kudos. I mean, we brought this up yesterday, made a little noise about it, and I think the city heard us and responded. Mm-hmm. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yep.
Kudos to Matt Murphy for following up on it. I'm glad because that's just, silly to have that thing sitting there ready to go when there's such a need. And so I hope that everything has been worked out, and it sounds like it has. Well, hang on a second. I forgot just a minute. I have some oddball stories. I was busy doing some research there during the break that I'd like to share with you. Here's a couple, I call these TTOs, this, that, and the other, because they're just they don't really fit into any category, but they're interesting. A woman from Atlanta, surprised to find a charge of $7,112.98 on her credit card for a Subway sandwich.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I know prices have gone up, but I think that's a little ridiculous, isn't it? Vera Connor, a regular Subway customer, typically pays $7.50 for a usual order. She was shocked to find that her weekly credit card statement revealed she had been charged $7,000 and change for her favorite Italian sub. She traced the source to the four-digit charge to a mix-up at the point of sale. She suspected the touchscreen used for entering her phone number mistakenly registered her input as a tip amount.
Very generous. It is the holiday season.
Yeah. I must say, I must have been keying in the pad, and the screen changed. She said I could have gone to Italy and gotten a sandwich for that much money. Yeah, that's right. The error turned her modest meal into a charge that could have funded a trip to Italy. And she tried to get a refund when she discovered, and the store manager was reportedly very uncooperative. Well, no, that was a tip. We assumed you were just being very generous, I guess. The Bank of America initially sent a denial letter in response to her dispute. She knew that errors are usually identifiable and rectifiable. This is unbelievable because I feel everyone that sees it has to know it was a mistake. I've worked in retail before. I know how we tally up at the end of the night. The situation took a turn after the story gained attention on social media. The banking giant Bank of America reached out to the Subway franchise and its corporate branch, and Subway did eventually confirm that a chargeback was being processed at the time this story was written. So a happy ending there. I can't imagine. You go and I check my bank account every day just to make sure there's no monkey business going on.
You never know.
Because I do so much e-commerce, that somebody can get that number and do something with it. Although it seems that my bank, God bless them, I love them. It's the bank of the two Caitlins down here
right.
in Watertown. If I do anything online, especially this time of year, and I use that credit card, denied. They won't approve it. So I end up having to use my backup credit card to get Christmas gifts and all that. But I mean, they're very careful about it. And I guess a lot of people are. But you'd think a charge from Subway for $7,000 would send off alarm bells, right?
I would think that might be a little suspicious. Yes.
All right. Here's a sleep habit. As I get older, sleep is an elusive thing. I don't know if that's a thing that a lot of people go through, but I find it's really hard to go to sleep at night. And I'm finding lately I'm sleeping in a little later than I did because I didn't actually get to sleep until like 2 in the morning or something like that. And I try. I mean, I'm in bed about 10:30, but I don't actually go to sleep sometimes until 2. At least I don't think I'm sleeping.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, it's rough. A recent study looking at sleep and longevity found that sleep regularity, going to bed and waking up at consistent times with a few mid-slumber interruptions, well, that happens as you get older, matters more than how long you sleep. Sleeping 6 hours every night on a consistent schedule was associated with lower risk of early death than sleeping 8 hours with irregular habits.
So consistency is key.
So if I consistently get the same crappy sleep, it'll be okay.
If you get 6 hours but you go to bed every night and say, well, I mean, what time are you a night owl?
I used to be, but I mean, I guess it's still later, like 11. Yeah. Trying to be asleep by like 11.
I always thought it was interesting. I read a story one time about sleep about the old days when farmers would go to sleep when it got dark because they didn't have TV and didn't have the internet, so they just go to sleep because it was dark.
Nothing else
They got up at like 3 or 4 in the morning, and then went out and milked the cows, and then they came back for what they called the second sleep.
That's crazy.
They would take like a 2-hour nap and get back up about 7.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah. I could do without milking the cows. It's 31 past the hour now on Super Talk.
It's 4:32. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories right now. 52 degrees in Nashville. It's been a wet and gloomy day. Looking clearer for the holiday, but could be some cooler temperatures. We'll tell you all about it. Full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, the second explosion just this week in Murray County has left a home in ruins. Channel 4's Sharon Dankwa tells us more.
Some walls have collapsed and the back portion of the roof has also collapsed to the ground. Now, firefighters say 2 people were inside the home when it exploded. They were taken to Vanderbilt Medical Center with serious injuries. TBI is working with Murray County Sheriff's Office to find out what caused this explosion. They say the last home that exploded that happened on Sunday was caused by a propane tank. We don't know what is the cause of this home explosion.
And those 2 people are still hospitalized in critical condition. The explosion happened around 8 a.m. Here in Nashville, retailers are gearing up for Black Friday, and so are police. With the recent trend in shoplifting where thieves go into high-end stores, take as much merchandise as they can hold at one time, some of the ways police hope will be a deterrent includes the installation of sky cameras to better identify suspects. They're also working extra patrols. The Tennessean says a new study by Forbes Advisor says Tennessee came in at number 11 as areas most impacted by retail theft. And now over to the money news at Daria Albinger.
Stocks fell in a rare stumble following its big rally. The Dow gave up 63 points. The Nasdaq closed down 85 and the S&P tumbled 9. Lowe's and Best Buy both sank despite reporting better earnings for the last quarter than expected. More trouble for a cryptocurrency executive, Changpeng Zhao. The founder of Binance, the world's largest exchange, pleaded guilty to a felony charge that he failed to take steps to prevent money laundering. Here's something that you can be thankful for if you're traveling over the Thanksgiving break. You're going to spend a little less for an airline ticket this year. Travel site Hopper says the average price is $268 per ticket. That's down 14% from a year ago. The AAA says gas prices dropped about 37 cents a gallon from last year. It also says a record 55.4 million Americans will travel at least 50 miles from home this year, despite inflation and memories of past holiday travel meltdowns.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
You know, when it comes to big repairs at your home, like things where you need to do waterproofing or you need really foundation repair, you know, a lot of people are a little afraid to do that because they're afraid of what they're going to learn. So they put it off and they put it off and they put it off. Well, here's the truth. It could be something big that needs to be fixed. That's true. It could. But it could be a small problem now that will become bigger if you don't do something about it. Or you might find out that the thing you've been worrying about is really nothing at all. One way or the other is, you know, you don't know. You're not an expert in this area. And you certainly don't want to be sold something that you don't need. So you need to turn to a company you can trust. And I promise you, you will be well pleased if you reach out to the folks at United Structural Systems. Over 25,000 satisfied residential customers. Here's how they've made it happen. They come out to your house and they give you an assessment. And they know what they're doing. So they will give you their best advice. No pressure, not kind of try to upsell you. They're just going to give you the very best information they can, and you need to make a decision. And if you make the decision to go forward, you won't pay a penny until the job is done and you are completely satisfied. That's right. That's what they do. USS, they guarantee their best. Serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. You can learn more about all the things they do over there by going to their website, USSTN.com. Or alternatively, call this number, 615-488-7855. That's 615-488-7855. It's 40 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. Hey, we're getting it done. We're in full GSD mode, getting stuff done.
That what that S is for?
Well, that's the cleaned up version.
Oh, safe version, yeah.
Yeah. You know, when I get, I used to be this person. I thought, when I got a task at hand, it was just like, head down, get out of my way. I'm going to get this accomplished. And
yeah.
I especially when I was in day-to-day journalism and there was a deadline, that was always, head down, get her done, focus like a laser beam and just blow through everybody that gets in my way, which, it turned out makes you not very likable. So there's that. But I've sort of mellowed on that. But Cabana Wife, when she's in full Christmas mode,
serious
she's
business.
she's in GSD mode. She's getting stuff done. She is, and I mean to tell you, she's been on fire to get all the Christmas stuff done early. She's worried. I think she's worried about getting Christmas done, which is a big deal at our house, and we have a little party that we do early in December, and so we're going to be getting ready for that. Hired a pianist today.
A what now?
A piano player.
Oh,
a pianist.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was gonna. Well, never mind then.
Yeah, no, I'm really looking forward. He's really good. Okay, I can't wait. He's gonna be
Oh,
playing.
that's right, because you got the baby grand.
The Kanabi, yeah. The 100-year-old restored Kanabi.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we hired that guy today, and so that was my major. Check off that on the old list. That's one of my things. But trees are going up, and garland is going up, and there's already lights on the house, and the wreaths are on the window. We're doing everything that I hate about Christmas, which is, doing it too early. But we need to be ready because we're going to have puppies next week.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a big thing.
I think it's okay. Look, this is Thanksgiving week. It's close enough, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, anyway, but I'll enjoy it when it's all done and settled, and then we just have to focus on puppies for a while. We talk on this show a lot about EVs, electric vehicles, and how they are not really meeting the need that is out there. And a lot of people who have done it have become regretful of buying electric cars, or those who are early adopters have bought them, and now there doesn't seem to be a great deal of interest. The people who want them have got them. And the people who don't want them aren't going to buy one. And it's really causing the major car makers. GM has said this, and Ford has said that. And now that the strike is all settled, they're starting to make some announcements about their EV plants, and they're pulling back in a huge way. I raise this because in the state of Tennessee, we provided a ton of money to Ford to lure them to build a plant over near Memphis called Blue Oval City. And we also, GM also has significant resources in the state that are, aimed toward building electric vehicles. Well, listen to this. This is from CNBC. I've got another story from the Wall Street Journal. Ford Motor is scaling back plans for a $3.5 billion battery plant in Michigan as consumers shift to electric vehicles more slowly than expected. Labor costs rise, and the company moves to cut costs. So this new deal that they cut with the UAW cost them a lot of money, and now they're looking around, how are we going to pay for it? Well, we're going to pay for it by not doing the thing that is least profitable, which is making electric vehicles. People don't want them, and they're expensive to build. Ford executives, including CEO Jim Farley and Chair Bill Ford, initially announced the facility in Michigan in February. It quickly became a political target due to its connection to a Chinese battery manufacturer. The plant is wholly owned Ford subsidiary, but the U.S. automaker is licensing technology from a Chinese company. Ford said Tuesday it's cutting production capacity by roughly 43% and reducing the expected employment at that plant from 2,500 jobs to 1,700 jobs. The company declined to disclose how much less it would invest in the plant. Based on the reduced capacity, it would still be about $2 billion investment. All right. And then there's a plant in Kentucky. I don't see it in this particular story, where I think they have announced that one's not going to go forward. They say they're bullish on EVs and our EV strategy, but clearly while there is growth both in U.S. and worldwide, the growth isn't at the rate that we and others had expected. We're trying to be smart about this and about how we move forward, is what they're saying. So there now I've seen things about the plant in Kentucky. I've seen things about the plant in Michigan. And the last thing I saw from a Ford official about Blue Oval City was they were going forward. But, I mean, isn't the handwriting on the wall here? I mean, GM, Stellantis, and Ford, all the big automakers are now making decisions to pull back on their EV production. And we've given millions and millions of dollars to Ford to build a plant in Blue Oval City. Now, I take them at their word, but I also look at what's happening elsewhere, and it seems like they are pulling back on anything that had to do with building electric vehicles because they can't make any money on them. And now they have these extra costs that come with the new UAW contract. So I don't know. I can tell you one thing. The cost of your vehicles is going to go up quite a bit. Here's another one. Surprising crash for lithium, cobalt, and other metals used in EV batteries is hitting mining companies, which are suspending or delaying new projects and expansions. The disruptions are threatening to deepen shortages of those materials, writes the Wall Street Journal. In coming years, hit the brakes on the Biden administration's timeline for weaning the country off gas-powered cars. This situation is a bit dangerous because the mines aren't going to get built, says Anthony Malusky, chief executive nickel producer Nickel 28, a longtime investor in battery metals. We should be building mines now, and we're not. Battery-grade lithium prices are down 60% this year, and graphite, nickel, and cobalt have lost about 30%. A big factor behind the declines, listen, a weaker than expected economic recovery after COVID-19 lockdowns in China and the world's largest consumer of metals, and slowing EV demand is weighing on prices. And again, they cite the fact that Ford has said they're going to downsize plans for their Michigan battery plant. The sliding prices mark a turnaround from when car makers rolled out ambitious plans to switch their fleets to EVs, and metal prices skyrocketed higher. So then they were going to build all these metal plants, but now that it looks like the demand for EVs is going to be much lower than expected, they're not building the metal plants, the metal mines or whatever they are. They're not going to be harvesting. It was interesting that Exxon just recently said they're going to start mining lithium in Arkansas, which I think is a great idea, good for the economy. And number two, we don't want to be relying on other countries to provide the metals that are necessary if we do go forward with EVs in some way. But I just get the sense that people have looked at EVs, and the people who want them and for whom EVs work have bought EVs. And the rest of us have looked at it and said, it just doesn't fit my need, and I'm not going to buy. Right now, I mean, apparently, if you go to any of the major car lots, you can buy the EVs, and they're sort of discounted because if you want one, now's the time to buy one because the dealerships all have EVs that they can't get rid of, is the story, that they've built too many and there's no demand. Well, when you have too many and there's no demand, you know what? The immutable laws of supply and demand tell you the price will be lower. So you might be able to get a good deal because these car dealers want to get them off the lot. It's not in their interest to hold on to cars very long. It's in their interest to move cars. And so I understand pretty deep discounts right now for electric vehicles. But I just want to say again, I've raised this flag several times. If I were the state of Tennessee and I were the governor, and I'm not, thank goodness for that, but if I were the governor, I'd be in close consultation with the folks at Ford to find out more about what their real plans are for Blue Oval City. Because they're pulling back, and they're pulling back, and they're pulling back. And if you look at the trend, it's not good for EVs. And yet that's largely what Blue Oval City is supposed to be all about, if I understand the process correctly. So anybody dropping a dime to Bill Ford? Anybody dropping a dime to Jim Farley to ask the questions and have a frank and full discussion, given the investment that the state of Tennessee has made? Inquiring minds want to know. 50 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock. You know, many of you have been in this area for a long time and you know about Eurofix. They've been in Middle Tennessee and they are the place to go for your European car repair now for almost, 24 years. I mean, that's almost a quarter century. And you've gotten to watch them grow. I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, they are now proud to announce a fifth location. You probably have heard about it by now, that Eurofix has an offer, a new place in Mount Juliet. It's on Mount Juliet Road, right across from the Dairy Queen. Beautiful new facility. Eurofix can now serve you in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now their newest facility, again, in Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting at a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer grow to 5 locations, repairing thousands of cars each month. I said thousands. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair. So why don't you call this number and set up an appointment? 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX. Or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, sent you.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Several school administrators in Tennessee getting fired for allegedly showing up to a school event drunk. A warn to seniors about a scam, crime here in Tennessee, and North Korea claiming they've successfully launched a satellite into orbit. That and more coming up 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Garth Brooks is going to launch do a soft opening on his new Friends in Low Places bar down on Lower Broad on the 24th. That's Black Friday.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
They're going to do some streaming concerts out of there. And, yeah, it's going to happen. I'd like to see what it's all about. He's been down there a lot supervising personally.
Well, maybe after it's been open for about a year, you'll be able to get in.
Yeah, that is probably right.
Yeah.
It's 58 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk. A 3-carat lab-grown diamond for just $599. I'm not making this up. A 2-carat lab-grown diamond for only $299. A 1-carat lab-grown diamond for just $99. It's not a mistake. It's Genesis Diamond's unbelievable lab-grown diamond Black Friday sale. That's right. This weekend, Genesis is offering deals absolutely no one could touch. Other stores are charging $10,000 for their 3-carat lab-grown diamonds. But at Genesis, it's just $599. Their 2-carat lab-grown diamonds are over $4,000 in some places, but at Genesis, the price is just $299. That's right, $299. And their 1-carat lab growns are coming in at $1,500, but you can get a 1-carat lab-grown diamond at Genesis. It's only $99. The offer is not too good to be true, but it is limited to the first 150 customers with the purchase of one of Genesis' exclusive settings. Imagine proposing to the love of your life with a stunning 3-carat certified lab-grown diamond, any shape, showcased in a one-of-a-kind setting. Don't miss Genesis Diamond's lab-grown Black Friday event this weekend. You ready? Friday, Saturday, and again, they'll be open on Sunday in Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for all the details.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. A wet 51 degrees. Chances of showers the rest of this evening, but it should clear up and be a bit cooler by Thanksgiving time. Latest traffic report, a weather forecast on the way in 5 minutes. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says that several middle school administrators in the Clarksville-Montgomery County school system have been fired after allegedly showing up to a school basketball game under the influence. There was supposed to be an administrator at the game. None were present. Then all 4 showed up. Multiple people thought they had been drinking. During the game, they were asked to leave. The principal and 3 assistant principal positions will be posted this week. The school system said it will be working to hire a new leader for New Providence. The FBI sending a stark warning to seniors about a scam where someone calls to say their grandchildren have been injured in an accident, in jail, and in need of bail money. Im Nguyen.
The FBI is warning of a scam that calls grandparents posing as a lawyer, pretending the grandchild is in jail and in need of bail money. 88-year-old Gloria Castelli from Rhode Island picked up the phone to hear this question.
Do you have a grandson?
She said yes, and the person on the other side replied,
We need money to bail him out, a lawyer. And I said, What is his name?
Castelli says they weren't able to answer and she knew it was a scam. The FBI says this scam has nabbed $1.9 million in the first 9 months of this year.
Some crime right now in the Volunteer State Channel 4 reporting that the driver of a stolen Nissan Maxima was killed after crashing into a semi-truck on I-40 West. It happened this morning near Fessler's Lane at about 1 a.m. It was raining as the Nissan passed a semi-truck and lost control of over all 4 lanes. The car came back under the trailer of the semi and got trapped under the tires. The Nissan driver died on the scene while the semi driver was left unharmed. Multiple firearms were found inside of the vehicle. And North Korea claims that they've successfully launched a surveillance satellite into orbit. Andy Field with the reaction from the Pentagon.
Pentagon spokesperson Sabrina Singh on North Korea's claimed successful spy satellite orbit.
I can confirm that we are aware of that, but we're still assessing the success of the launch.
The Biden administration condemning that North Korean launch, saying it violates UN resolutions and used a ballistic missile, which the UN banned Kim Jong-un from using. That claimed successful launch comes after 2 failed attempts last spring and summer.
And that is the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, we're already into hour number 3, man. This day is just zipping by. Woo! We're so glad that you're with us here for the drive on this November 21st, a Tuesday. Feels like a Monday, but it's Tuesday because yesterday was such an unusual day. I want to pause just briefly to say once again how much we appreciate everybody who participated in helping us shatter all previous records for the Radiothon for the Nashville Rescue Mission. The final calculations, they had to make a little adjustment because we have to count the money that comes in online, and it takes a little longer to get that all tabulated. But this morning on Nashville's Morning News, Dan Mandis had the news that we collected $243,134.60. I kicked in the 60 just to make it sure it wasn't a round number. No, I didn't. But I mean, that's a tremendous, that shattered by almost $10,000 the amount that we was our previous record in 2021. And I mean, honestly, it's just a labor of love to do this Radiothon each and every year because I really believe in this. And look, just because our Radiothon is over, I understand you can still make donations, and they'd be tickled to have them. So if you're thinking for something to do to sort of support your community during this season of giving, then I again recommend the Nashville Rescue Mission. But people were so generous and dug so deep. By the way, that'll provide 85,000 meals. Do you know they do 16,000 meals a day. Think about that.
That's astounding.
Yeah. 16,000 meals a day. And they just crank it out 24/7, 365 days a year. And so we're very happy to be associated with this really fine charity that does so many good things in our community. I don't think people understand or appreciate that the Nashville Rescue Mission makes our town a better place in so many different ways because it's there to service the needs of those who've fallen on hard times. And to help them not only just, have a place where they can go to stay warm and get a warm meal and a shower, some dry socks, whatever they need, that those little things mean so much to them. But it then gives them the opportunity to get into a program to turn their lives around using a faith-based approach. And imagine if all of the people that are serviced by the Nashville Rescue Mission, if it wasn't there, sort of think of it like, that Christmas movie. What is it? A Christmas, what is it called? The one with, I can't think of it. It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life, yeah.
Yeah, Wonderful
Completely
Life.
blanked.
Yeah, I did too. Wonderful Life, where you find out this one guy wants to, is shown what will happen if he had not been there in the community and how the community would have been, not as nice and turned into an ugly and evil place. And his presence had made the difference in so many people's lives. I think that's the way it is with the Nashville Rescue Mission. And I don't think we even come close to appreciating, the real good that it does in the community. And I would not want it to not be there. I'm glad it's there, and I'm glad that we have it. And we're not counting on government. We're not counting on the federal government to do all that. And again, thank you again for your generosity, for your largesse, for your giving spirit. Again, $243,000 is an amazing outcome, and I'm deeply touched by your response. I truly am. I get emotional when I start to think about it. So thank you. It is the Thanksgiving holiday. It's approaching. It'll be Thursday. It's Thanksgiving, Black Friday. And then, what is it? Cyber Monday follows that.
Yep.
So everybody's getting ready to, kick off the holiday season. And I hope that you're not flying on a plane. I hope you're not getting on a plane. Because I'm going to tell you some things that I think you're going to find a little concerning.
You're really stressing a lot of people out.
Well,
right now.
I'm sorry, but I think about this. It would be better not to know. I think I would want to know.
That's true. Yeah.
I want the information. Let me make the decision. Information is power, and once you have the information, you can decide what you're going to do. But I'm concerned because, as you know, and we talk about it endlessly on this program, there's 1.8 million people who've come into this country that we don't know a heck of a lot about. We don't know anything about them, actually. We don't know where they are. We don't know who they are. We don't know who they're associated with. But I would guarantee you that a fair number of people in that 1.8 million, think about how many people that is, almost 2 million people. That's a lot of folks have come into this country having no contact with law enforcement. And I am certain that some of them are people who want to do this country ill will. They don't have our best interest at heart. They have come here. Maybe they're sleeper cells. Maybe they are agents of other countries who are here and buried in and sort of absorbed into the fabric of America. And our police don't know they're there. I mean, they're doing the best they can, but they don't know who came across. They're just unaware. And the Biden policies at the border have made us, absolutely, without any doubt, less safe all across America. Well, now listen to this. On a record, 30 million Americans, according to Fox News, are expected to head to the airport this Thanksgiving holiday, and one industry expert is warning that deployment of air marshals to the southern border could mean that Turkey Day troubles might not be isolated to bad weather. I mean, let me give you just the quick snapshot here. A lot of people who were air marshals got redeployed to the southern border by the Biden administration. In other words, they took the people who were on airplanes designed to make us safe and redeployed them to the southern border, where they're not actually even doing law enforcement stuff. They're just like handing out water and passing out food and filling out paperwork. They're there in a support capacity because they're so overwhelmed. Well, okay, that's good and fine. I suppose, that it's helpful to the Border Patrol to have some people there who can take the load off of them. But what about the safety of our flights during the holidays when so many people are going to be flying on planes? Remember, it was 9/11 was 12 guys with box cutters and some time on a flight simulator. And look at what they did. And now we don't have air marshals that are flying the flights because they've been redeployed to the border. I mean, at first it started out saying, can we have some volunteers? And they didn't get any volunteers because the air marshals think they do something very important. And they didn't want to go because they felt like they would be abandoning their responsibility to the flying public, and they would. Well, then the Biden administration, in its infinite wisdom, came back and said, no, you don't have a choice. You've got to do this. And they sent a bunch of people down there. And they're not flying on planes. That means that there is nobody there in the plane, and they're not on every flight, but they're on a lot of flights, or they were, and they carry weapons, and they are there designed to stop bad people if they start doing stuff. And so what do? Sonia Labasco is the director of the Air Marshal National Council. This is like the Border Patrol Council. They speak on behalf of the air marshals because air marshals can't go directly to the press, but their union can. We received an email last week that resources are depleted as far as our flying marshals. We are ushering in illegal immigrants on the border and leaving the traveling public unsafe, telling viewers that the air marshals are being deployed at the southern border instead of being used in the transportation sector where they belong. She said leaders of key federal agencies, namely the Department of Homeland Security, the agency at large, Mayorkas, and its subsidiary, the Transportation Security Administration, are to blame. Ted Cruz has been raising hell about it. Labasco says the air marshals deployed in the region are not doing law enforcement duties. They are actually doing things like passing out water instead. So the Cruz wrote a letter to Pekoski at the TSA and said, what are you doing? What is this all about? Initially, those deployed to the border were sought on a voluntary basis. Later, the deployments became mandatory, sparking outrage and mutiny from the marshals. Secretary Mayorkas has said more than once that the border is secure, and we know that is unmitigated. It's not secure. Not secure, but he will not call it a crisis. But now the border is destabilized and our aviation units are destabilized as well, says Labasco. Clearly, we're not flying right now. The only mission we're doing are quiet sky missions, and those are missions that are following the January 21st people, January 6th, 2021 people, the January 6th folks. And apparently, if they know that somebody who was involved in January 6th is about to get on a plane, they will then send a marshal to fly with them and to sort of shadow them, I guess. Meaning a group in the industry are dedicating to follow those who flew to the U.S. Capitol region at the time of the January 6, 21 Capitol riot, regardless of whether they were present at the Capitol or not. I mean, I drove all the way so I guess I'm not on the list, thank goodness. I mean, it'd be a waste to have somebody following me around.
Oh, I'm sure you're on some list.
I'm on the list. You know what they did? I am on a list. You know what? It happened out that when at the time, I still had a residence in Florida. And I had a concealed carry permit in Florida, which allowed you to do same-day purchases. And I went to a gun store during just before that, during the Christmas holidays, and I bought weaponry. And I had it in the trunk of my car. But I knew, because I went into the District of Columbia, it had to be unloaded in the trunk of your car, or you're in violation of the law. But they started tracking down anybody who got weapons within a certain time frame and then went to Washington, D.C. And so I know I'm on that list. I'm certain of it. But listen, I'm really worried about this because, we have people out there who, could do us harm. They are in this country. There is no doubt about it. And I know that law enforcement is doing everything to find them and track them down. But when you have 1.8 million people who are gotaways, who never came in contact with the Border Patrol, never came in contact with ICE, never came in contact with the Department of Public Safety in Texas, never had any contact with law enforcement at all, you don't know who it is. And if I am an enemy of this country, like somebody from Iran, or maybe I'm from China, or maybe, from some other terrorist country, and I want to do harm, I'm going to take advantage of the chaos, and I'm going to slip as many people into the country and have them just disappear and wait for orders. Well, we've irritated a lot of people right now. What with our support of Ukraine? We've irritated a lot of people worldwide, of course, with our support of Israel, which I think is the right thing to do. But still, there are certain countries where we are looked at as, the enemy because of that. And we don't have air marshals. I mean, in what world does that make any sense? It's 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Legend Steakhouse. Oh, man, wouldn't you like to have a good old steak from Legend Steakhouse, Johnny Fleeman's place? There's several locations around the area. Just go to legendsteakhouse.com to find out where they are. But in addition to being a good place to go for dinner, they want you to think about going to one of their restaurants for lunch. Meat and two is provided. And the meats that you can choose from are just good old-fashioned, the kind of stuff your mama made. Fried pork chops, Smoky Mountain meatloaf, fried catfish, slow-cooked pot roast with gravy, and then the sides, because I'm really all about the sides. This is, again, good country cooking. 14 vegetables and or casseroles to choose from. You have broccoli casserole, turnip greens, bourbon glazed apples, fried green tomatoes, potato casserole, black-eyed peas. It's a home-cooked meal at lunch for a change. And by the way, these are recipes that Johnny borrowed from his mother over 30 years ago, and he just never gave them back. Legend Steakhouse has multiple locations across Middle Tennessee. Good food at a fair price. If you are in Davidson County, check out their Smyrna location just off Almaville Road, open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner. Go to legendsteakhouse.com to find out all of the locations and to do some online ordering if you want to do that. A local business, been around for some 34 years. And listen, you're going to enjoy your next visit to Legend Steakhouse.
Hostage release negotiations ongoing in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Black Friday here in Tennessee and what it means for retailers. And the Justice Department has snared another cryptocurrency operation. This time we'll tell you what it's for. 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, for the retailers out there, this is the time of year where they really make their money.
Well, you know, I would agree with that. It is. It's also the time where I get my wide world of sports. Isn't it time to get an update?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I have a button here. Let's see if I can recover. Excuse me, because it's my fault. I forgot where I was in the rundown. Sorry about that. You were looking at me like, what the heck?
The constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
It's time for Mac Maury's wide world of sports. And now here is the host of your program. You know him, you love him. You can't live without him. It's Mac Maury, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you know, that's showbiz, baby. You know, it works quickly. I didn't know if I had been booted, if it just, sorry, you were boring us. That's
Your
gone.
15 seconds of fame are over,
That's
Maury.
done. Come on.
I've never gotten that look from Mac Maury before. He look at me like, are you forgetting something, dude?
I know. I was like, shoot, I don't want to be rude.
I was ready to talk about some other stuff, but I forgot where we were in the rundown. It's 27 minutes past the hour. Mac Maury, what do you have for us today?
Brian, I can't blame you for wanting to skip this because Titans took another bad loss against their AFC South Division rival, 34-14 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And
I watched and I just had to walk away. It was just too frustrating.
No, it's depressing. It is. It's disgusting right now, the product that the Titans are putting on the field. And Mike Vrabel discussed it this week. He said, we've got to be better for the fans. We've got to put out something on the field for our fans to even want to come and watch. And so the fact that he's being that real right now is at least nice to hear as a fan or as a supporter of the Titans, because, I mean, it is. It's been abysmal here these last few weeks, and it seems like the Titans have become the opponent for any opposing team to say, all right, this is our get-right game. This is a time for us to kind of reset and get right, and that's what the Titans have become. I mean, this is a Jacksonville Jaguars offense that has struggled thus far. Again, we talked about last week, Trevor Lawrence, only 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions headed into this game. They have not been able to pass the ball. They weren't getting any vertical routes. Well, what'd they do this week? They got right. They reset. Trevor Lawrence, 2 touchdown passes, 262 yards, 24 for 32, and they were launching it all over the yard. Calvin Ridley for some deep passing catches. Christian Kirk finding his holes in the zone against the defense as well. Travis Etienne with 50 yards on the ground and a couple nice catches. It just seemed like whatever the Jags wanted to do, they were able to do. A couple nice plays. Jeff Simmons caught a touchdown pass, the big defensive lineman, so they got a little trick play going. And Will Levis had a long touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins. But for the most part, like you said, Brian, this was a game that just made you kind of want to walk away and go do something else with your Sunday.
All right, I want your expert analysis. What is it that's going wrong out there? Because it seems like to me Levis was erratic. And sometimes that's that the quarterback's just having a bad day, and sometimes it's just not having enough time in the pocket. So which is it?
Yeah,
a little both?
I think it's a little bit of both at this point. I think, that kind of new shine has rubbed off for Will Levis now. It's been a full month. Defensive coordinators have film on what he likes to do, and it's clear what he likes to do. He likes to throw the ball long. I can't remember the exact stat off the top of my head, but for guys in their first 4 games, as far as passes over 30 yards, he broke the record. I mean, he's passing the ball a long ways, but now defenses are ready for that. They're saying, we dare you to do that. Throw it long, please. We're going to blitz you. Yeah. You're not going to have enough time. This offensive line is putrid. It's not going to be able to protect if we blitz enough guys, and you're going to throw it up, and it's going to be an arm punt, and that's what's been happening, and there's not really besides DeAndre Hopkins, no one can really win at the point of attack to go win a 50-50 ball.
All right, well, so my next question would be, what does this mean for Vrabel, and what does it mean for Levis? I mean, are they still going to – is he still going to be the starter?
Yes.
And is Vrabel in any trouble here?
No, Vrabel should not be in any trouble. Titans fans need to take a breath. They just need to take a breath because the general manager, John Robinson, was fired before this season. They hired Rand Carthon. John Robinson was fired because he couldn't put enough couldn't put enough tools in the shop. Vrabel didn't have a lot at his disposal. So to now say and watch the season and go, well, there's just not enough good product on the field. We got to get rid of Vrabel. That would be nearsighted because you just got rid of the culprit already. Vrabel's now having to
that's a great point. Yeah.
He's having to re-pick up these pieces here, and the say of the players that he had to draft this year have been good. And Vrabel had more say as far as this draft was concerned. And these rookies for the Titans, Will Levis has had some moments. Tajay Spears has had some moments. They have some guys on both sides of the ball that they drafted this season who look like they're going to be, imperative parts of this piece.
It's Vrabel's job to take whatever they give him and do something with it. But he's not. He wasn't, at least at one point, in control of what was going into his toolbox. As it were.
It's like if you were trying to bake a cake and you just didn't have any flour. I mean, he just doesn't have anything right now, and he's doing the best he can.
All right. Well, it's time now to get. Thank you for reminding me where we were. It's time now for the news. Here's Mac Maury with the news.
.531, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 51 degrees, rainy in Nashville. A full weather forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. The United States says it would be in the interest of Hamas to release hostages and could benefit the Gaza civilians that Hamas says it is there to govern. Andy Field with the latest from Washington.
For nearly 2 months, the U.S. State Department has said virtually the same thing about the Hamas hostages.
We are very close to an agreement, but we are not there yet.
State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller saying they are seeing how many Palestinian prisoners Israel will trade for Hamas hostages and just how long a truce to make sure they're safely returned.
And the proposed hostage deal would mean a pause in fighting, but Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has not pledged an end of the war. Here in Tennessee, Black Friday coming, and retailers are facing the threat of a new kind of shoplifting. Several high-end stores in Nashville recently fell victim to thieves rushing in and grabbing items, then running away with as much merchandise as they can hold. The Tennessean says police will be beefing up patrols and will have installed sky cameras to help identify theft suspects. And the Justice Department has snared another cryptocurrency operation, this time for money laundering. Andy Field has details on the Binance plea deal.
Attorney General Merrick Garland says Binance cryptocurrency willfully looked the other way as terrorists, cyber criminals, and child abusers use that exchange to launder illegal money.
Now, Binance is paying one of the largest corporate penalties in U.S. history.
Binance's founder, Changpeng Zhou, forced to step down as CEO, his company paying a $4 billion fine.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, I want to talk a little bit about gold. It's been used as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, consistent across generations. And some have observed that generational wealth has three components. You buy land, you buy art, and you buy precious metals. Well, land and art can be hard to evaluate, but precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver are practical solutions. Do you have gold that was given to you and you're not sure what it's worth? Are you curious about what precious metals are all about and you want to learn more? Well, the answer is the Nashville Golden Coin. These folks can help you out and give you great information. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. And gold and silver can be a great safe haven during uncertain economic times. Learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Golden Coin. They are always available to discuss your options and educate you on the precious metals market. So do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Golden Coin. That's NashvilleGoldenCoin.com to set up your one-on-one appointment. "38 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. You doing all right out there? Man, it's already dark 30 out there, and a lot of people trying to get away today, highways and byways. I just want to, I didn't get to this story earlier. I just want to make sure that you know it because it's important. If you're driving somewhere for the holidays and you're driving, maybe to grandma's over the river and through the wood, to grandmother's house we go. Well, if you're doing that, and TDOT wants you to know that they're clearing up all the lane closure activity in the state as much as possible to open up the roads to make sure that people can get where they're going. And so, that will help you a little bit. I also want to just sort of put this in your ear that the Popo will be out in big force. The
Popo.
Yeah. I sit on my popo is what I do. No, a popo means police. John Law, the long arm of the law, the state troopers, Johnny Law. They're going to be out there in greater numbers, getting ready to watch what's happening on the roads and to enforce the laws, because I think that they really feel like people are driving a bit too fast, and it's true. I mean, you go to town. I don't know about everybody else, but when I go to town, if I'm doing the speed limit, I'm getting run over.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's funny is that people don't seem to see those signs, the speed limit signs that decrease as you get closer to downtown. the interstate speed limit goes from 70 to 65 to then 55 through down. No, it's at 75 plus all the way through.
I remember one morning when I was working mornings, I was driving in, and somebody behind me started to hit me with a spotlight. And I was going, what is that? Somebody, because normally if it's a police officer, they just turn on the red and blues, right? Or the blue lights, whatever they have. And I kept looking, and I was afraid that somebody was harassing me. I thought, I didn't know what was going on. And finally, just as I got ready to get up there and turn off on DeMundry and go to the radio station, the red and blues come on, and I pull over. And the guy says, I was just trying to get your attention. He was trying to shine a light on the speed limit sign. He was trying to let me say, are you seeing that you're going too fast? There's the speed limit sign, dummy. And I said, man, you scared the what out of me. Just turn on the red and blues. I would have pulled over.
So you're one of those people, are you?
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to help me out. And he was nice enough. He didn't write me a ticket that particular time. But I said, I'm sorry. I'll try to be more careful about it. But you're right. It does drop down there, and people just crank on through.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, I was coming from downtown last night because we stayed out late after the Radiothon, and I went to the 3rd and Lindsley to see the Time Jumpers, which is a great show. And so Cabana wife and I are headed home, and people are driving 80, 85 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and it's like, okay, well, as long as everybody else is, I guess I better join the thing. I've probably just gotten myself a ticket for that. But one way or the other, I mean, I just felt like if you don't, you're going to get run over. And so, but that. I think the state patrol is going to start cracking down on that stuff. So anyway, be alert that the state patrol is going to have a heavy presence on the highways during the Thanksgiving holiday. So you have been forewarned. Some other news. From the swamp. There's been a letter sent over to the Department of Energy, and I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this, just something to file away, because we don't know really what it's all about. Senator Jim Risch, R of Idaho, led a group of GOP lawmakers who have raised alarm in a letter to the Department of Energy claiming the Biden administration suddenly reassigned a director at the Department of Energy. Now, the Department of Energy is more than energy. It's honestly, that's where a lot of our nuclear expertise is located. Nuclear weapons, nuclear power plants. I mean, if it has to do with nuclear, as Jimmy Carter used to say, nuclear power, it's at the Department of Energy. It's a high security facility. So they sent this letter to Jennifer Granholm, the energy elf, and stated that on October 17th, Stephen Black, the director of Office of Intelligence and Counterintelligence at the DOE, was abruptly reassigned to a senior advisor role within the Energy Department without explanation. The letter says, we are also aware that a study conducted by an outside contractor, which the department had in its possession since April, outlines disturbing findings as to the state of counterintelligence across the department, to include the national laboratories. At the national laboratories, we do our most sensitive research. And they're under the auspices of the Department of Energy. As you are well, the Department of Energy and Research supports, especially at the national laboratories, is among the most important national security work undertaken by this country. The findings in the contractor study, which Congress requested, are deeply concerning. So they reassigned the person who was in charge of intelligence over there, which suggests to me that maybe this report, if it was made public, would reveal that we have lost major national security secrets out of the national laboratories. Most likely, it would imagine the people who want those secrets the most are the Chinese. Signed by Barrasso, Rubio, Steve Daines, Susan Collins, Bill Cassidy, Tom Cotton, Jerry Moran, John Cornyn, James Lankford. They said that if Black presided over the DOE during a DOE when there was time that there were serious shortcomings with regard to counterintelligence, then Black shouldn't be in any office with national security assignments. Watch this story. I have a feeling it's going to blow up. The the Speaker of the House, you may have missed it. It happened late on Friday, and we haven't really talked to you about a lot of stuff since Friday because of the Radiothon. But he released more of the January 6 tapes. And, I mean, he's going to eventually relieve about 95% of them. They say about 5% will be held back because they reveal certain security provisions at the state capitol. And it's like 40,000 hours of footage, and people are starting to go through them. You can look at this stuff. It's out there for your perusal. More footage from the U.S. Capitol on January 6th further contradicts the left-wing narrative that the day's events constituted a violent insurrection wherein democracy itself was placed in jeopardy at the hands of virulent demonstrators. But what you're seeing when you look at some of the footage is something that tells maybe a slightly different story. With a portion of the footage made available on Friday, the rest of the tapes will be made on a rolling basis. Cameras captured demonstrators peacefully marching through the halls of the Capitol while police stood by. In another clip, a Capitol police officer seen removing restraints on one demonstrator after walking him down a hallway out of sight from the crowd, before another officer bizarrely congratulates him with a fist bump. Wow. The footage corroborates what was shared by former Fox News host Tucker Carlson in March before his abrupt exit from the network. Johnson's Republican predecessors, Kevin McCarthy, gave Carlson producers access to the footage that had been kept under seal by the Democrat majority. That video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. I mean, were there people breaking glass? Yes. Were there people knocking down doors? Yes. But once that happened, the people who came in, sort of followed on, weren't a part of that initial incursion, but they came in and acted in a peaceful manner in many cases, not all. So that is also, I think, a story to watch in the days ahead, because we're going to be looking, and more of that video comes out and more stuff's going to be looked at. 40,000 hours, people will find stuff that is worthy of being reported on, and we'll keep an eye out for it. Hunter Biden lashed out at business magnate for ignoring him after he secured meetings with Joe Biden, emails show. More from the Biden Inc. investigation. He once admonished a Mexican business magnate for ignoring him after he set up multiple meetings with Joe Biden during his vice presidency. Hunter Biden emailed Miguel Alemán Magnani, grandson of former Mexican president and the former CEO of Interjet, in February of 2016, expressing his displeasure at Magnani for ignoring him. The pair dined together in Mexico shortly thereafter, and Hunter Biden berated Magnani, apparently causing the Mexican businessman to leave the restaurant, though, through the bathroom. We have so many great things to do together, and I want you at the plane when the VP lands with your mom and dad, and you completely ignore me. Biden emailed Magnani. I've looked at what your family has done, and I want to follow in that tradition. And you always say you will help, but you haven't heard from you since I got you that meeting for Carlos and your dad. We've been talking about business deals and partnerships for 7 years, and I really appreciate you letting me stay at your resort. But I have brought every single person you've ever asked me to bring to you to the effing White House. I'm cleaning this up, and the vice president's house and the inauguration, and then you go completely silent. I don't know what it is that I did, but I'd like to know why I've delivered on every single thing you've ever asked, and you make me feel like I've done something to offend you. Hunter Biden. Quickly, economic news. This is not good economic news. Home sales fell to a 13-year low in October as prices still go up. This is amazing. So you can't get a loan right now, or you get a loan, you're going to pay 8%. And a lot of people, the increased cost of money has priced them out of the market, right? So you would think, well, there's more houses on the market, and there are. And you would think that, well, when there's a big supply of houses and not many people buying them, the laws of supply and demand would say that the cost of those houses should come down. But they're not. I mean, if you have a home, you're still got a good investment that's probably growing in value. They were the existing home sales in October were 14.6% lower than they were a year before. The median price of an existing home in October was $391,800, an increase of 3.4%. That's really amazing. I don't know why that is. I can't quite figure it out, because generally the laws of supply and demand are immutable. But it's good news for people who bought property and were afraid that the property values will go down because the market was soft. That hasn't happened. It's not growing like it was, but it's still growing. Good news for those of you who have homes. Bad news for those of you who do not. 5:50 now on Super Talk 99.7.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
Ever heard that phrase, it's as good as gold? Well, that means that gold has value. It's been used as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, consistent across many generations. Gold is always going to be valuable. Generational wealth has three components, they say: land, art, and precious metals. Now, you may not be up to the land and art, but you can get some precious metals like gold, platinum, and silver and put them in your portfolio. You can hold it in your hand. Inflation is currently decreasing the value of your money. And, gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Gold and Coin. Maybe you have some gold that was given to you and you're not sure what it's worth, or you're just curious about metals and want to learn more. This is the place to go. Nashville Gold and Coin. It's where I went. They're always available to discuss your options and educate you on the precious metals market. So do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Gold and Coin, and you set up your one-on-one appointment where they sit down and give you that education at NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. That's NashvilleGoldandCoin.com.
.601, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. 50 degrees, chances for showers throughout this evening. We'll tell you how your Turkey Day's faring with the latest forecast and a traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. President Biden held a meeting today with senior members of his administration to follow up on gains on combating the illegal import and distribution of fentanyl. The president struck a deal last week with the presidents of China and Mexico to crack down on the illegal trade of fentanyl precursor chemicals. Karen Travers has more.
President Biden meeting with senior administration officials to talk about ways to combat the illicit fentanyl trade and acknowledging the holidays can be tough for families who've lost loved ones to the opioid epidemic. He called it a, quote, American tragedy.
Too many are going to face looking at an empty chair for the first time at Thanksgiving, because so many people have died. It's heartbreaking.
After the president's meeting with China's President Xi, the White House announced the U.S. and China will work together on a new effort to target Chinese companies that are making the chemicals for fentanyl.
And President Biden added that they need to verify that China's shutting down these companies and not just take their word for it. Right now in Tennessee, the second explosion just this week in Murray County has left a home in ruins. Channel 4's Sharon Dankwa tells us more.
Some walls have collapsed and the back portion of the roof has also collapsed to the ground. Now, firefighters say 2 people were inside the home when it exploded. They were taken to Vanderbilt Medical Center with serious injuries. TBI is working with Murray County Sheriff's Office to find out what caused this explosion. They say the last home that exploded that happened on Sunday was caused by a propane tank. We don't know what is the cause of this home explosion.
And those 2 people are still hospitalized in critical condition. The explosion happened around 8 a.m. Right now in Tennessee, Channel 4 says the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency reported that a deer in Lewis County tested positive for chronic wasting disease. This means feeding changes and carcass transportation changes in that area. And a new set of restrictions has been put in place in Lewis County. The agency will now increase testing surveillance efforts and monitor the disease there. Last year, 813 animals tested positive for the disease out of over 20,000 samples. And a southern Colorado man who allegedly shot and killed 3 people yesterday has been captured in New Mexico. Here's Alex Stone.
45-year-old Hanmi Clark is accused of killing 3 people in a property dispute in rural Custer County, Colorado. Investigators say it started as a neighbor property fight over an easement. There was a surveyor there at the time who was able to run to safety during the shooting. Custer County Sheriff Rich Smith says the arrest was made in Albuquerque.
I hope that this brings relief to the neighborhood and to the community.
The sheriff's office had been aware of an ongoing property dispute with those involved, but the sheriff saying they never thought it would end in the murders.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Good evening, everybody. It is 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. You're listening to The Drive, and I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, bringing you news and information you can use so that you arrive home or wherever it is you're going. Maybe you're going over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house by now. You know, they used to say Wednesday's the big getaway day, but I think, you know, that in recent years, it's been like Tuesday before Thanksgiving seems to be the bigger trend.
It just seems like too long to spend with family. I don't want to be around those people that long.
No, I
Good
know.
grief.
I'm going to actually, I think, if the puppies don't come, and if the puppies come, it changes everything. But it doesn't look like they're going to be coming until next Monday. And so I'm going to go down to Birmingham and see my sister and say hello to her. She's visiting her daughter and my niece and my nephew down there, and all the grandnieces and nephews. And so I'm going to go down and buy them lunch on Black Friday. That'll be fun.
Good luck with that.
Finding a place to eat
Ooh.
in Birmingham. We're going to go down there and do that, I think. But anyway, if you're going to see family, good luck. Be careful. Drive safely. Be aware that the State Patrol is going to have an increased presence. And if you're flying, listen, hats off to you. You're a braver man than I. The 2024 update. Let's just go ahead and do that. Because I've got some interesting numbers, but then beyond the numbers, it won't take long to go through the numbers, so bear with me. I think you're going to find that we're going to sort of listen in to what the Democrats are saying one to another and what the Democrats' strategies are saying, because it helps us understand what their plan is. I'm sort of baffled, and this is a good thing from our perspective. Don't get me wrong. I'm not upset about it. Trust me. I want Joe Biden to be the nominee. I want him to go forward, but I just keep thinking, if you put yourself in their shoes for a little bit, you come to the conclusion that it really doesn't make sense for them to go forward with Joe Biden as the nominee. But that may be exactly what they're going to do. I keep thinking somewhere along the line, this news that you keep saying is going to become so overwhelming that it's just going to be something where, the power brokers, and see, the Democrat Party is really run by power brokers. It's not the rank and file people to run the party. It's the people who are behind the scenes pulling the levers, the real power brokers in the smoky back rooms. And that's the Democrat Party still operates like that in a very major way. And I keep thinking they're gonna say, we cannot put this guy forward. We just can't. And I don't know what's going to be the precipitating moment. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I just believe that before all things are done, I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee the way it looks right now, unless something happens. That's the way it's beginning to feel. But I'm not at all certain that Joe Biden will actually be the Democrat nominee, and we need to be aware of what Democrats are saying one to another. Let me start with the numbers. General election, Trump versus Biden. A NBC News poll just out has Trump winning the general election by 2. A Morning Consult poll has Trump winning the general election by 3. And then there's a Harris X poll, which says that Trump will win by 6 in a general election matchup between Biden and Trump. But it's really likely to be, several people running. Kennedy's going to pull maybe, somewhere between 15 and 22%. He's at 22 now. And it doesn't matter, because if you put the 2, 3, 4 people in the mix and then run the poll again, Trump still wins by 6. It would seem that the extra people who are running are folks who will draw away from Biden and not away from Trump. So there you have that. And people say, well, 1 or 2 points, that's within the margin of error. Yes, that's true. It is. But, you look at these polls, and again, I'm going to teach you what you need to know about polls. You say, I don't believe the polls. The polls are, look, the polls are right now, they're fairly consistent in one thing. They all show Trump leading. You can look across, a bunch of polls, and you're going to be hard-pressed to find one poll that shows that Biden is leading. Now, some polls, it's within the margin of error, and some polls, it's outside the margin of error. But what I think is the most important thing is to always look at the trend. Who's got the momentum? And right now, it seems that voters are walking away from Biden, and they're moving toward Trump. Now, again, it's early. Again, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if somebody has a great moment on a debate stage somewhere down the line, and that campaign catches fire. It can all change, but this is the way it looks today. And Democrats are really starting to worry. So we're going to listen in on some of the things that Democrats are saying one to the other. This is from thehill.com. Democrats urge Biden to revamp campaign economic message. Democrats think it's time for Biden to recalibrate his economic message if he wants to resonate with voters going into the 2024 election. You know, we're going to have, not going to be just a couple of months, we're going to start having some real primaries and caucuses. It's happening. It's not that far off. With inflation high, interest rates on goods stubbornly through the roof, and the house market hobbling, Biden's handling of the economy has taken a hit in the polls. And yet they go out there and they talk about Bidenomics. Again, I'm just astonished that they're that stupid. I guess that's the thing I keep coming back to. I keep shaking my head saying, wow, really? They think this is going to work, because it's not working at all. And some of the pundits behind the scenes have said things like, we cannot just through sheer repetition convince voters of something that is not their lived reality when it comes to economics, says Adam Green, co-founder of the PCCC, Progressive Change Campaign Committee. Democratic messaging included that coming from Biden should be acknowledging pain and pivoting to a contrast. And it should be focusing on beginning progress, not to pretend that we're already there. Well, I think that's good advice, but they don't seem to be heeding it. And let me tell you, at the White House, it's almost as if there's a defeatist attitude that has started to creep in. There aren't many people who ask great questions in the White House briefing room. There's Peter Doocy, and then there's my friend James Rosen. And James sort of narrowed in. He's the Newsmax White House correspondent. And he sort of narrowed in on how the administration will talk about polls when it's like, oh, the polls show that people support us on this matter. All right. But when it comes to the polls and how the president is doing in his reelection bid, they say, oh, we don't pay attention to the polls. That my friend is because I'm telling you, they do care about the polls, and no matter what they say, they watch them like a hawk. Here's James Rosen asking some difficult questions of Karine Jean-Pierre, who seems to be stuttering and stumbling an awful lot.
Whenever you're asked about the president's dismal job approval ratings, you say we're not going to look at polls. We look at his accomplishments. And yet when you are asked about various domestic policy initiatives, you will say these poll very well. People support what the president wants to do. If you look at the individual subjects on the polling, they support what the president's agenda is. So once and for all, are only certain polls valid in your eyes, the ones that support your agenda, or is the polling data that shows that President Biden has been stuck for 2 years at the low 40s in his approval ratings, are those valid?
So here's the thing. I think it's important to share that American people do approve of some of the president's initiative. I think it is important.
I mean, they don't. I mean, you can't find anything that they generally approve on. Yeah, but she's right out there. She's buying into it. If we say it often enough, people will begin to believe it. Karine Jean-Pierre, again, answering the skewering questions of James Rosen.
The polls that show that the electorate at large and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party believe that the president is too old. The polls that show the American people and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party don't want him to run again. And the polls that show his handling of the economy, foreign policy, all of these dismal polls, his job approval ratings, does the White House have any basis to challenge the accuracy of that polling?
I'm not challenging the accuracy here. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying to you is that, we're not going to change the minds of Americans. I get that. Americans are going to feel how they feel, and we're going to respect that. And I've said that many times from here. Many times. I said that moments ago. What I can tell you is what our perspective is. What I can tell you is how we see things.
Well, I mean, that's sort of a defeatist attitude. Yeah, we're not going to change anybody's minds. I mean, I'm just shocked at how inept they are. And that's a good thing from our perspective. Don't get me wrong. I can't believe how stupid they're being. It baffles me. I don't understand why you would continue to go out there and talk about Bidenomics when it's very clear Bidenomics is not resonating with people, and people feel like the economy's in the toilet. We're not going to be able to change those minds. Well, then what are you going to do? I mean, this is the gang that can't shoot straight. And of course, this came on the day. All of this happened yesterday, and we were busy with the Radiothon, so we didn't get to it. But this happened on a day when it was the president's 81st birthday. And there were a series of questions about the president's age and his ability to get the job done. And boy, you want to talk about hemming and hawing. You got to know, as press secretary, if the narrative out there in America is that your boss is lacking because he's too old and can't function, and is really, really should not be running for re-election. If that's the narrative out there, when it comes time for his 81st birthday, you got to know that question is going to be asked. She seems not to be prepared for it.
I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone on any day of the week.
David Axelrod told the New York Times, quote, Biden thinks he can cheat nature here, and it's really risky. A, what's the president's response to David Axelrod? Does he respect his opinion? Does he think he's right? But also, I mean, is there a real alarm happening behind the scenes that the president is simply too old to stake around for another 4 years?
No, there's no alarm happening behind the scenes. I can only speak behind the scenes here. There's no alarm happening behind the scenes, and I'm certainly not going to comment on everybody who has something to say.
I mean, David Axelrod
I didn't say that. Nowhere in my response to you that I said that. I said I'm just not going to comment on everyone that has a comment to say. They're going to speak for themselves. I'm going to speak for the president, and here what I'll say is, look. And also, it's just not my job. It's not my job to think through or to tell people what to think, right? Whether it's the American people out there or a political analyst or as your question is about David Axelrod. It's just not my place to speak to that. Our perspective is that it's not about age. It's about the president's experience. That's what we believe. And it's, as they say, the proof is in the pudding, right? The president has used his experience to pass more bipartisan legislation in recent time than any other president. That's just a fact. That is something that we have seen this president do, and that's because of his experience. He's been able to manage multiple foreign policy challenges. He's been able to do that. That's because of his experience. He's been able to create jobs, raise wages, and lower inflation. Right, and that is the proof is in the pudding, right? We see that in the data. We see that where we are today than where we were when the president walked into the administration. So what we say is we have to judge him by what he's done, not by his numbers.
Two things. I now want some pudding. And the other thing is that if you're going to judge him by the things he's done, it's not good. He's destroyed the economy. He's made the border less secure. He's gotten us involved in Ukraine. He's gotten us involved, well, I think we have to be in Israel, be supportive of Israel. But one way or the other, those things, I think, are happening on the world stage because there is a perceived weakness on the part of the United States. And around the world, the perceived weakness comes because they see a president who can barely get to the stage and back down again without having some kind of faux pas. Yeah, let's judge him on what he's done. And if we do that, then the next president of the United States will be Donald J. Trump. There's no doubt. I think the polls are picking all this up. And I think that, as they say in Washington sometimes, denial. It's not just a river in Egypt. the Democrats are in complete denial about this guy, and I don't know how much longer. I mean, the White House is in complete denial about this guy, and I don't know how much longer the power brokers within the Democrat Party are going to stand by and let this thing go forward. Tick tock, tick tock. If they're going to make a move, time is running down. For my money, keep on rocking, baby. It's great stuff. But I'm telling you, it's not pretty what they're up against. The White House says he won't govern by polls, and again a recounting of all the polls and how bad they are as his approval ratings continue to sag. NBC has him at 40%. There's another poll out there has his approval rating at 39%. 59, I forget, more than 59% of independents now disapprove of the job he's doing as president. Here's a story from The Blaze. It's just malpractice. Democrats paint grim picture of the state direction of Biden's reelection campaign. Okay, so they're just looking at the campaign as it goes so far. They say that these experts say, and they talked to the Washington Post. The Post spoke with 30 members of the Democrat Party machine, elected officials, party strategists, and aides, members of the Biden administration, campaign officials, and donors. And the concerns that were raised in these conversations with the Washington Post, which is, that this is the Democrats talking among themselves, is that age is an albatross, and he cannot sell his accomplishments. 24 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock. Big news from DT McCall's. You've been thinking about buying a gun safe but putting it off. Now is the time. You may not know it, but gun safes are sales tax free. That's right, sales tax free. It's hunting season, so be sure you're keeping your gun safe when you're not in the tree stand with a gun safe from DT McCall. DT McCall's is the largest Liberty Safe dealer in Tennessee, and the reason is free setup and delivery. You see, others charge $500 for delivery of the big models, $300 for the smaller models. DT McCall & Sons delivers every safe free every time period, never a setup charge. And security is important these days, and gun safes can be used for valuables, cash, jewelry, important documents, wills, deeds, car titles, whatever you need to keep safe from theft or fire. So save some big bucks now, just in time for Christmas. Dad would love to get this for Christmas on a gun safe when you shop at your local DT McCall's. Go to dtmccalls.com for locations and information. 28 minutes now past the hour. Nashville's growth surge into 2024 will continue. Nashville is the first city to be named top market for 3 years in a row. And it's a survey that talks about, what towns are the best town for you to go in as a developer and start to develop, land, et cetera, buildings, that kind of stuff. The emerging trend report dubbed the era the Great Reset because investors will likely lower their expectation during the sluggish period. But when you take on Nashville's meteoric rise among U.S. cities, the reputation continues, writes the Tennessean. In fact, after years of breakneck growth, Music City's future seems brighter than ever. Nashville commands the top spot as the nation's all-round best market to invest in for the third consecutive year, according to real estate industry reports. I mean, I wondered about this because, there's another story out there today that talked about how commercial real estate is about to have a bubble burst because there aren't as many people in the downtown areas now, what with people working from home, et cetera. And we're building buildings, and many times there's nobody there to fill them. But apparently that is okay and not happening here in Nashville. And Nashville is the first city to be named top market for 3 years in a row in the report's some 45-year history. And there you go. But they do voice some concerns about the lack of any kind of real effective transit plan for the region, and I agree with that. I think it is going to get better with these smart lanes that are going to be going in. But I mean, in the downtown area, et cetera, well, I don't quite understand what Nashville's strategy is. After Nashville, the top 10 markets with the best prospects, according to the Emerging Trends Real Estate Report, are Phoenix, Dallas, Fort Worth, Atlanta, Austin. We beat Austin by a great number. That's a good thing. San Diego, Boston, Raleigh, Durham, and Seattle. Congratulations. We're number one, third year in a row. And it looks like the growth in the downtown area will continue. 31 past the hour now. I don't know about you, but the one thing I don't want to have is for the weather to get cold and for my heater to not work. I want the warm air. I don't like to be cold. So if you think you may have a problem or you have a problem, just call the people I would call. This number, 615-775-7833. That's the number at Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. That's right. They will come out. They will buzz over to your house, and they will take care of your problem. And let me just tell you that really the way you avoid having problems is to have regular maintenance on your systems. And that's what the Beehive Club is all about. Starts is $99. You get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, one aimed at plumbing over the course of the year. No overtime charges 24/7 and 10% off all repairs. See, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner. So for satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com. It's 38 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Welcome back. You're listening to The Drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. This is our last 22 minutes together today, and then we'll hand it over to Mark Levin, who will carry on through the evening. Let me bring you up to date on some stories that I just haven't had time to get to. These are not unimportant stories. Number one, the United States has forces in the region, in the Mideast region. We have people in Syria. We got people in Iraq. We got all kinds of folks over there. And they've been coming under attack because of our support for Israel. The Iranian-backed forces in the region have been launching attacks against our troops, some 66 attacks, according to the Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh over at the State Department.
U.S. forces have been attacked approximately 66 times since October 17th. 32 separate times in Iraq, and 34 separate times in Syria. U.S. personnel have sustained approximately 62 injuries, but this does not include any injuries from last night's attack, as they are still being evaluated.
Well, we understand that then indeed the United States, every time this question gets raised in one of the briefing rooms, it seems that the United States seems like they get pressured into showing that they need to do something, and they do something, and so attacks against those forces by U.S. Fighter jets have been launched, and we're waiting all of the details on that. And we're waiting to find out exactly what might happen. Now, another thing that's happening in that region right now is there is talk of a hostage swap. And right now, apparently, the details have been put before the Israeli cabinet, which must sign off on it and see that they agree with what is being done. Benjamin Netanyahu has been sounding positive. They have been sounding positive from the State Department, but not giving any details. They have been sounding positive from the Department of Defense, but not giving a lot of details. The president said he's optimistic today, but is not giving any details because it's still a very fluid situation. But here's what we do know, according to the Wall Street Journal. The deal involves 50 Israeli hostages being held by militants in Gaza, being released in exchange for some 150 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. The exchange involves only women and children on both sides, and in exchange for that, Israel would pause fighting in northern Gaza for 6 hours a day or 4 or more days, with the possibility of extending the pause if Hamas is ready to release more hostages. So, what will Hamas do with those pauses? They will shore up their positions. Or maybe they will do something else like get their people out of there one way or the other. That is the deal that's being laid out. We'll give you 50, you give us 150 Palestinians, but you got to pause fighting in northern Gaza. Now, the deal would still allow Israel to conduct operations in the north, where it has split up and isolated different parts of the enclave, likely in preparation for a detailed operation to root out the remaining Hamas forces, along with fighters of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, another militant group in the enclave. We are currently advancing. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said of the deal on Tuesday, "I hope it will be good news soon." So at least the women and children might be getting out of there. Now, are there any Americans among those? Unknown. We're told that there are 9 American hostages. And what they're talking about here seems to be Israeli hostages. But the thing that makes this confusing is that when you're talking about Israeli hostages, many times Israelis hold 2 passports. They may be Americans, but they also have Israeli passports as well. So it's not quite clear how they're counting it. It would be great. I know that the White House seemed to be making positive noises about that, but didn't say much out of fear of jinxing the deal, making things, more difficult than they need to be. Here's what Biden said. He said, "Looking good. Now we are very close, very close. We could bring in some of these hostages home very soon, but I don't want to get into the details of things because nothing is done until it's done. And if we have more to say, we will, but things are looking good at the moment." That's fairly positive, but again, leaving open that the possibility that we're not quite there yet. All right. Moving on to something that's a little closer to home. I have been raising this as a concern, and I think we really do need to be very mindful of this particular story, in that the state of Tennessee has provided millions, my memory says it's like $100 million, to the Ford Motor Company in order to get them to come to Tennessee. They gave them all kinds of opportunities and a package worth about $100 million. That's a lot of money. And they're supposed to, that Blue Oval City, which is going to go in near Memphis, is supposed to be this plant that is all about electric vehicles. But I got 2 stories here that talk about how Ford is scaling back plans for its $3.5 billion Michigan battery plant as EV demand disappoints and labor costs rise. 2 things are going on here that are hitting the big automakers. And Ford is now coming forward and saying, we're going to have to reconsider how many electric vehicles we make and how many electric vehicles we're going to produce in a given year because there's just not that much demand for them. And then on top of that, they just got hit with a new UAW contract that makes the cost of producing cars to go up dramatically. So they're trying to figure out, okay, what do we do now? Well, if you need to cut something because you're paying more money to the unions, by the way, your next car will cost more because of that contract. But if you're trying to do something because the unions hit you up for a big new contract and you got to figure out how you're going to pay for it, what do you do as a company? You look around and say, where are we bleeding money? And let's stop bleeding money. Well, you're bleeding money in your EV development program. And it makes me wonder about the future of Blue Oval City. I hope I'm wrong. I've seen a Michigan plant is now being pared back. There's some talk about not even building a battery plant that they were going to build in Kentucky now. But I haven't seen anything about Blue Oval City. So I'm just saying, if the writing is on the wall with regard to EVs, the people who want EVs, I think, have them, and everybody else is turning their nose up and they don't want them, much to the chagrin of the Biden administration, which wants to put you in an electric car so bad they can taste it. So Ford is scaling back their Michigan battery plant, scaling back in Kentucky. Haven't heard anything about Blue Oval City. And then there's this story that says that around the world, they were getting ready to start mining in a bigger way lithium and the other precious metals that are needed to build batteries. Battery-grade lithium prices are now down 60% this year. Nickel, graphite, and cobalt are down about 30%. And the big factor behind the declines is a weaker-than-expected economic recovery, and slowing EV demand is weighing on prices. And they cite in this story the fact that, as I just told you, Ford is paring back its EV plans. And because they're not going to be demanding as much lithium, the people who produce lithiums have stopped their plans to build new plants where they process it and mine it. I do remember the story the other day that by 2025, Exxon hopes to be developing lithium out of Arkansas, which is a good thing because it'd be better for us to have our own domestic source than to count on people overseas. But right now, enthusiasm in this particular world seems to be waning. Mines can take years between discovery and production, meaning the slowdowns could result in a material shortage in the coming years and leaving car makers scrambling for scarce supplies, writes the Wall Street Journal. Somebody call Bill Ford or maybe the CEO, Jim Farley of Ford, and just say, hey, is everything still good with Blue Oval City? I mean, shoot straight with us. We put a big investment in this. We gave you a lot of breaks. Is it still possible? Is it possible that you're not going to build Blue Oval City to the level that you thought you were going to? I don't know. I think the writing is on the wall, and we should be prepared for that. And somebody ought to be asking the hard questions of the Ford Motor Company, because we, the taxpayers, have an investment in that process down there. All right. Let's end on something on a lighter note. It's getting to be evening. Right now it's 6:48. Feels like it's 10:30. I look outside every night. I look over at Cabana Wife and I say, Cabana Wife, I'm about ready to go to bed. She look at me and say, Brian, it's 8:00. And I said, I know, I'm an old man and I want to go to bed. No, we can't go to bed. Here's a story that I think is interesting. The sleep habit that's more important than getting 8 hours. Everybody says you need 8 hours, right? New science has uncovered a sleep practice that matters more than that if you want to have a long life. Honestly, when you start losing the ability to sleep, it can shorten your life. You need to understand that. And a recent study looking at sleep and longevity found that sleep regularity, that is going to bed and waking up at the same time with maybe a few mid-slumber interruptions that happen when you get older, you understand what I'm talking about, matters more than how long you sleep. Sleeping 6 hours every night on a consistent schedule was associated with a lower risk of early death than sleeping 8 hours but sleeping irregularly. Maybe you go to bed early one night, you go to bed late the next night. You're all over the place, right? It takes its toll. Even if you can only get 6 hours, get 6 hours on a consistent basis.
Consistency is key.
So, as we bid you a fond farewell, you're getting sleepy. You're getting very, very sleepy. It is 6:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing so you'll know how much it costs before the care is delivered. That's a really cool thing. But here's the coolest thing. They're smart care plans. They start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. I'm going to repeat that line. Unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. And because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, in this season, when a lot of people are trying to make their healthcare decisions for next year, think about this, because if you marry a smart care plan with your high deductible insurance plan, could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible, and it is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point wants to know that they can do something about COVID testing if you think you have COVID, and they have treatment therapies that can be helpful to get you over it more quickly. Grace Point Healthcare, Main Street in Franklin, 599-6868 to schedule a visit.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.